Live. Just making sure we are. Hey, everybody. Scold Pata 9, good to see you. Moonlight Master, hey, hey. Chat so I can. We are actually live this time, so no delay. So when you post a question, I'm going to see it, which means I probably should answer, but we'll see how many questions we get. This is going to be a PLO study stream. Cone Fumpany. Hello, hello. Welcome. We're going to study some PLO. So I guess, let's see. It's a little strange. Normally I would see number of people here. It's not showing, but anyway, I'm just going to start studying. And so on the stream last night, some people were asking me about some pre-flop decisions. I'm going to... Studying pre-flop is not that interesting to me, and I don't think you should be interested in it either, because it's well, you should do it, but it's not. You don't need me to teach you. You just go envision and like see what you should be studying pre-flop. Sorry, I'm looking over here, but I guess you're here. 52 watching now. Cool. Or something. I guess maybe because I'm not on a delay, and I'm usually on a delay, it just looks different in the YouTube backend. Anyway. Matthias, good to see you. The genius behind vision. Matthias, I apologize. I actually haven't, because I haven't been playing PLO really this year until, well, I haven't been playing anything this year until the last few days. I haven't used vision this year. So I'm actually probably behind in terms of my knowledge of features. So please feel free to correct me or point something out to me if I don't notice. Read this. Okay, so yeah, one of the things we can do if you go to runonce.com, Moonlight Master is telling you this in chat, and if you have a basic account which is free, you get access to Vision all day as part of this, and so we can study together. You can look up a spot and ask me about it, and also later we're going to compete together in Streak, which will be fun. We'll see who can beat me, and if we're doing 6-max, I think some of you will. If we're doing heads up, we'll see. Martin, hello. Pounce, hi. Guillaume, hello, hello. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed episode 3. John Hickey, good to see you, first timer. I appreciate you being here. So let's actually start in Streak, just because it's a little more fun and visual. If we're going to do pre-flop. And as you can see here, I haven't been using it. I was just testing for like a few minutes before getting going. But we're going to start with under the gun because, so the way Streak works in Vision is it feeds you a question, and we have leaderboards based on how many correct in a row you've gotten. And so if we look at the leaderboard for pre-flop raise first in under the gun, the winner, Glacko fan, has 112 correct in a row from under the gun. I'm not going to beat that for sure because I don't play 6-max PLO, but we can see how well I do. Vision does not have 6-card. We do have 5-card. No, we've had this tool. I mean, we keep improving it, but we've had it for a while. Actually, the story behind Vision, Matthias, who was in chat, created this tool on his own, and it became my favorite tool to use to study PLO. And so we reached out to him. We at Run It Once, and we partnered with him to bring it to Run It Once, make it a Run It Once product, and improve it together. So this is like yes, I'm showing you my product, like a Run It Once product, but I actually really, really believe in it because the reason it became a Run It Once product is because I loved it. Okay. So let's see how we do. And it'll tell you, so far from under the gun, I'm 100%. From MP, I missed 1 out of 10. This one's going to be a fold. I'm a little curious. So actually, there was one hand that came up yesterday where we were talking about, I think I folded 8-7-6-4 under the gun, single suited. And I thought it was a fold, and I actually thought 8-7-6-5 was. It looks like it's a mix. So actually, it's like 50-50. With the 8 high suit and a 6 or a 7, it's an open. With an 8 high suit and a 4 or a 7 high suit or a 6 high suit. It's a fold. So very cuspy, and I'm sure that that means I was wrong, at least in this structure, about 8765. So that is an open. I actually thought this was not an open. I thought this was like 1 pip too weak, but at least I was kind of close. Martin asks, how hard is it to introduce some kind of adjustment in the pre-flop, post-flop game? For example, if the big blind is folding 75 to steal, we should steal from the button 60%, probably more. You can't do that in Vision, but and you can't really do it well in any solver. Maybe in Munker if you run your own sims and and it's complicated. I'm not sure. But that's just going to be like a the way that I study solvers is different than I think a lot of the way people do, and especially more beginners. Like beginners come in here and try to memorize things and try to get the right answers. And pre-flop, I try to get a feel for the right answers, but I'm always going to adjust anyway. And post-flop, I try to get a feel for the logic. So like solvers don't actually use logic. The way that they work is more brute force calculation. And they just like learn what works, but a solver doesn't actually understand pot odds or anything like that, or equities or anything like that. It just learns what wins over billions of runs. What was I trying to say? But I try to, but it obviously what works for a reason. And so I try to apply human logic, or like work backwards from the solutions to human logic, and then just apply that in game. And then if I'm using human logic while I play, rather than solver memorization, it's a lot easier for me to say, oh, this guy doesn't see bet enough. So what should I do? I should adjust my range this way, and so on and so forth. Can you modify the stack sizes in Vision? Yeah, so in Streak, we've got 100 big blind and 50 big blind. There's more in Learn. I guess I'll go over there. So in Learn, there are different rake structures. We have ante as well for MTTs. Okay, so for PLO 400, 600, we have 50, 100, 200. I think it's going to be the same for all the cash games. And then for MTT / no rake, we've got all of these stack sizes: 5 big blind, 10 big blind, 3 big blind, and so on and so forth. And then for FTT big blind ante, which is different, we have all these as well. But going back to Streak, does it keep my streak going? Let's see. This is a fold. No, we started over because we left. So we're going to stay here. I'm going to try to get to... Oh, and by the way, do this with me. So I'm very curious to hear how your streak... like if somebody... I'm going to try to get 25 in a row from under the gun. If you get 25 in a row, let me know. Again, go to runonce.com, use your free account. If you don't have a free account, you just sign up with an email. And, oh, interesting, this is a fold. So there goes my streak for now. And then you can do this along with me. Head over to the streak tab. I will, as we get into post-flop, explain a lot more and go into detail, but for now we're just doing some pre-flop. I'm catching up, letting people come in. Over here, you can see, so up here it's queen 10, 5-3. This is showing you how to play with all queen 10, 5-3. So, I mean, they're all a fold from under the gun. But sometimes I'll wait for an example where these are different. This one's not going to be different because that's going to be a fold with all of them. This one will probably be a play double suited, but not single. Yeah, so here you can see double suited, you would open, and then all of these other combos would fold. This doesn't literally mean hearts and clubs. It means any double suited. There's a system to this, which I kind of know, and it'll be obvious every time we look in here. But like here, you can see in this hearts and clubs example, hearts means the higher suit, whereas here it's like the ace is a different suit, but then the green ones are the other cards. Ema says, very nice product, Phil. Thanks for sharing. Any general thoughts you'd like to share on short stack PLO strategies in 6max? So we can do some short stack study, because honestly, like we're going to get into post flop later, and I have a lot to say about post flop, like a ton to say about post flop. So this one's probably a fold, but double suited to open. No, still a fold, double suited. What about if we make the 5 a 6? So up here you can modify things. If we make the 5 a 6, double suited and open. So I was 1 pip off. Nathan, yeah, I just ran it. I'll show you again. It was right before you signed on. Um, it is so with 3 to a suit, it's a fold. With 2, if it's 8-7 or 8-6 or 7-6, it's an open. If it's 8-4, 7-4, or 6-4, it's a fold. So I don't remember which it was, obviously, but it seems that we both thought differently, and as it turns out, it's close. And usually when people who know how to play the game disagree, it's because it's a close decision. Aaron Cantor said 42 in a row. Oh wow, we fold king king 3 deuce. What do we need? King king. So this is how when I play with it, and I'm like, oh, this is a fold. Okay, what would it need to be to open? So like, what about king king 5-3? King king 5-3 is an open most of the time. With a king high suit, it's an open. What about king king 4-3? Oh, that's 5-4, obviously an open. King king 4-3 is an open. So 3 deuce was not. What about 4 deuce? 4 deuce probably not. I think the deuce is the problem. Yeah. So king king 3 deuce, not an open. King king 4-3 is. Again, this is actually Matthias. You're in here. What was the? Yeah, no problem. No problem, Nathan. Matthias, what is the default rake structure for streak? If you're still in chat, that's got to be an open. All right, starting our streak of 1. I think we raise, yeah. But if we had 3 hearts, we would not, or 3 spades in this case. Yeah, as Matthias says, go to practice preflop RFI trainer if you want tough preflop challenges to calibrate your RFI from all positions over various stack sizes. Oh, interesting. That might be. I want to start with this for now because I'm having fun trying to beat my streak of 8. I want to get 20. Did I say 25 earlier? I think that was too ambitious for me in 6 max. Fold. Ace high suit is an open. Okay. Oh, okay. So it's the rake structure is whatever I have in the settings. Default rake level, 400 to 600 PLO. Cool. Wow, there's a lot of settings. This is like I said, I've been out of the loop this year, and I know Matthias, you keep adding awesome stuff. Night Sun said ace 7 deuce deuce double suited got me. I'm guessing you opened and it's a fold. Yeah. So easy to look up any hands here. Stephen Lasky, Eugene, both have 25. OS X3 has 25. All right. Then I have to be able to get 25. Come on. I mean, it doesn't mean I don't play 6 max and I don't study 6 max, but I should be able to, right? Late Night Sun says I'm doing better under the gun than on the button. Yeah, under the gun's going to be easier, I think. Yeah, it's got to be easier because the range is narrower, and so I don't know. A lot of stuff is a fold. Is Jack 10-9-8 a premium hand? I mean, it's a strong hand. I don't know if I would call it premium. Double suited, I would definitely call it premium. Let's fold this one. Martin says better try RFI Trainer in the practice tab. This is a new feature. Yeah. Okay. Let me try to get to. Okay, we're at 22. Don't screw it up, Phil. Okay, just give me easy ones, Vision. Give me easy ones. Nice. Cone says strange that 10-8-7-6 is an open. That doesn't surprise me if 8-7-6-4 or 8-7-6-5 is. Having a single gap. Okay, again, it's very similar in strength to 8-7-6-4 actually, which does surprise me. I thought this would be a little bit stronger. All right, we're at 24. This is a fold. We did it. We got to 25. I guess I'll just keep going till Eugene got to 37. Nice. Jay Whitty, you go to runonce.com. And this for Saturday is entirely free for everybody. If you you just sign into your basic account. If you don't have a basic account, it's free to open one. It takes 2 seconds. Okay, I was a little nervous about this, but it is an open with an ace high suit, unless there are 4 of them. Okay. Steven asks if there's a structure like an anti-game where vision allows for limping pre-flop. Matthias, if you're still here, I'm going to let you answer that because I don't know the answer. This seems like a fold. Yeah, the tools at runaonce.com, we do not have a no limit version. This is for PLO only. Nick says, hi, Phil. This is awesome. Thanks for doing this. I've always wanted to see something like this. Question on future stuff. Are there any other Omaha variants potentially planned to be added to Vision? Right now, we have 4-card and 5-card. Basically, and again, Matthias, correct me if I'm wrong. This one seems close. I'm going to fold. How close was it? I'm guessing Queen, Queen, 9, 8's an open. Yeah, Queen, Queen, 9, 7. No. Okay, so a couple pips off. Bill S. maxed out at 33. Ace 10, 9, 8. Not suited to the ace got me. Oh, wow, that would have got me too. Bad beat. That would have got me too. Matthias says, no, preflop limping, except from the small blind, is not yielding enough EV to make it worth learning. I've done a lot of research. Yeah, Matthias is he has done all the research. I have not. And I'm thankful for him. Super O got 60. We're at 39. Yeah, button is a lot harder. All right, so what's fun for me, I'm curious what you guys want to do. What's fun for me is doing post-flop, but I know most viewers want to talk about pre-flop and want to learn pre-flop. And what's kind of silly is that all of you today have access to this for the entirety of Saturday today. If you're watching live, if you're watching a replay, then sorry, it's too late. Oh, this seems like a close one. Yeah, so with two, I was right that it was close. So yeah, I'm curious if you, seems close too. Wow, yeah, okay. So it would have been a fold with the ace jack suited. Wow. I guess you dominate fewer flush draws. So like this, I would have treated these all the same. I actually would have thought that ace 7 suited was slightly worse just because you can't make the straight flush, but I guess that's a tiny, tiny factor. Oh, okay. I did get it wrong because it was ace jack. That's shocking. Okay, we capped out at 46 for now. Late Night says, yeah, pre-flop's boring, easy to learn alone. Yeah, we prefer post-flop too, says Martin. Let's do some post-flop, share the knowledge. Someone once thought of creating a PLO AI product, more like advanced Snowy for PLO. I mean, I don't think so personally, like I use Munker, which, has technically more like can solve any spot, whereas Vision, we have like a lot of spots solved, done for you, kind of pre-solved. And I, even as an advanced player, in my study, I use Vision like 97, 98% of the time, and Munker 2 to 3% of the time. I don't think that a different, there are a lot of people who are ultra concerned about like getting very in-depth precision and more solutions, and being able to solve for what if it's 170 big blinds instead of 200, and so on and so forth. And I think that that's what's the phrase? Is it missing the forest for the trees? Someone look that up, please. Anyway, like I think that and what attracted me to Vision so much is I think that the interface is what matters, like way more. And I love Vision because it makes it so easy for me to study. D-Gentleman says, for PLO dummy like me, the preflop is challenging. Yeah, but you can study. All right. Chris Wu asks why ace 7 suited, jack 5 is an open. So I can only guess. My suspicion is that when you open with ace 7 or ace 5 suited. So first of all, I want to say this doesn't matter. You can play all of these the same. The EV difference is like a fraction of it. It's nothing. So play all these the same. Don't worry about it. But since we're nerding out, my guess is that the difference is that when you get called by other positions, you are going to flush over flush somebody less frequently when you hold the jack, because they're going to play pre-flop with more like jack, you know, king jack, queen jack, jack 10 suited stuff. And they're going to fold more things with like 7 high suits and 5 high suits and so on and so forth. So I think that you flush over flush people a little bit less with the jack high suit. That's my guess. Yeah. Can't see the forest for the trees. Is that what I said, or did I say it a little differently? Brett says most of the GTO solvers aren't intuitive and take hours to learn how to use. Sounds like Vision is easier. Yeah, that's what attracted me to Vision. And I mean, again, like it's my product now, but I didn't make it. We brought it on to run it once because I loved it. Okay, so let's go to learn post flop, and let's look at some single raise pots. So let's do button versus big blind, a very common spot. And let's start with just an unpaired board. I call these dynamic boards. Up here, you can change to single raise pot, 3-bet pot, 4-bet pot, 50 big blinds, 100 big blinds, single suited rainbow, and so on and so forth. You can also filter for ones that have rivers. So we have solutions for, and you'll see here when I click in here. Okay, we have rivers for a lot of these. Matthias, you've been hard at work getting more and more rivers in there. All right, let's just do king 10-3, the very kind of, I don't know. I think this is like representative of a lot of stuff. So when we load this pre-flop spot, first we just get the first decision. So this is the big blind's decision point after defending the big blind. And no, we can't run a double board. Okay, Matthias wants to see practice pre-flop RFI trainer. All right, he's proud of it. Let's do it. Or unless that was answering a question. All right, practice pre-flop RFI trainer. I have not used this. Okay. And then do multiple stack sizes. Is that what you're thinking, Matthias? Oh, we could do no rake. We do custom. Custom sims. Oh, okay. You can add your own sims, right? Let's do whatever. We'll keep the same rake. All right, we'll go for insane. All right, cool. Now that we're going to generate and practice, select RFI positions. Which do we want to do? Select all. So let's try it from every position. New spot. Oh, okay. I see what we're doing. So this is asking us, this is cool. So this is asking us, all right, we'll go with 100 to keep it simple. Matthias, this is asking us which positions this is an open from, right? So if I go select all, that would mean I think it's an open from under the gun. And I think it's not an open from under the gun, but everywhere else. That's my guess. Nailed it. Oh, this is cool. Yeah, I've never seen this before. This is an open from nowhere. I have to be careful. I have to think about like small blind and stuff. This is not an open from the button. Could it be an open from the small blind? I'm gonna go with yes. Well, I would open it. I don't know if it's an open. No. This seems like an open from the button and the small blind. And when we click big blind, Matthias, what does that mean? Not the big blind. Or the big blind is the only spot that we play it? Oh, big blind is versus limp. So yeah, so if it's big blind, it means do we raise a limp with this hand? All right, so I would open this on the button. I would not open it from the cutoff. I would open it from the small blind. Would I raise a limp from the big blind? This is really cool. I would, but I don't know if it's right. Oh, wow. So not the button, not the big blind. Or wait, does this mean everything but the small blind? So Matthias, is this what I got wrong or what the right answer is? I'm guessing it's well. Okay, on normal difficulty, you only get under the gun and button, but this we get all positions. All right, this I think is from nowhere. Correct. Not from button, probably from nowhere. You raise this from the big blind. Okay, so this is showing the right answer. Thank you, Matthias. Yeah, so like I've never studied big blind versus limp, so I'm gonna get those wrong a lot. King 9-5. I'm gonna go with nowhere. Ken says small blind is super nitty in 6-max solver land. Yeah, I probably played the small blind way too loose. I would open this from the button. Small blind, I would not raise it from the big blind. Okay, so it's cutoff button, small blind, and you'd raise it from the big blind. I mean, that's not that far off, but kind of. Okay, not on the gun, not cutoff. Would I open this on the button? I would not. Small blind only? No, it's just a fold from everywhere. Oh yeah, I'm too loose in the small blind. I think I would fold this under the gun and play every other position. I know that I can select all, but I just didn't. Nice. Matthias says this is very hard, recommending everyone to start on normal difficulty. Yeah. We'll just show them that for a little bit before we get into post flop. So normal, okay, we don't have blinds. That's much better. I don't like doing the blinds. This is just fold from everywhere. Tom asks if you can pop this out as a separate window. Do you mean from what? So this is just a web browser, but you can have multiple. Brett, this is yes, this is only Omaha. This is a fold from everywhere. Yeah, this is much easier without the blinds. I think that I'm gonna go with this. Wow, it's everywhere. I'm such a nit. Okay. Oh no, I can't do hand filter because we're on one spot. I'm gonna go cut off button. Oh, and nice in this version, when you click one, it clicks the others. I'm gonna go everywhere. See, this is what Matthias, if I can compliment you a little bit in public, this is what attracted, well, me and us at Run It Once to you, is like, we're very, very passionate about UX. And so like, if you look at like Run It Once Poker, the amount of thought that went into every user experience decision was like immense. And when I started using Vision, I realized that like these thoughtful things, and it's to people who are not like, I don't know, nerds like me, this doesn't matter that much, but just like the little feature of, okay, if I click MP, it's going to auto click cutoff and button, because obviously MP means that cutoff and button are going to play too. It's just thought like that routinely shows up, which is why I love Vision. I'm going to go MP plus. I think if this were like the queen of diamonds, then I would open it from under the gun. Wow, just the button. 3 suits hurt. I'll open this on the button only. Nope. Nowhere. 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 Everywhere. Nick says, what's the primary difference that occurs from RFI hands going from 200 to 100 big blinds? Great question. I think presumably you need to be tighter from early position. So we can study this in, let's leave the RFI trainer. And Matisse, is this the best way for me to do it, or is learn? I think learn pre-flop would be the best way. So now if we look at 100 big blind, basically we can go to any position, so under the gun, and see that it's 18.1% open. And wow, there's so many new features. Add additional positions or click on hero position. Oh, okay, this is if we want to look at all of these. Oh, okay, this goes raise, call, call. I understand, okay. So that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go back to just under the gun. Or no, let's go back to, okay, we double click, nice. So 18.1%, and then I'm just gonna go right to the button and see. So from just the button, it's 47%. So 18.1, 47. Now we're gonna go to 200 big blinds. Whoops, it was already showing me. Under the gun now is tighter, 15.6%. And the button is looser, 51.6%. I wish that I had said that out loud because that was my guess, but I'd actually never looked at it closely. So the deeper the stacks are, the more valuable position is, because like getting 3-bet when, like playing 3-bet pots out of position when you're 200 big blinds deep is a lot less advantageous than when you're 100 big blinds deep. When you're 100 big blinds deep in a 3-bet pot, you can get all in, basically, like almost all in with like 2 bets if you want to go pot. Whereas in a 200 big blind stacks, you can't. And so playing pots out of position decreased in value, which means that when you open on the button, you can't get 3-bet as much, and just you have more edge even when you do. When you open under the gun, you can get 3-bet more by the in-position players. So let's look at just when under the gun opens. Let's do this, and then it's folded to the button. At 200 big blinds, the button is, well, actually, shoot. Because the under the gun opening, remember the under the gun opening range is tighter. So here against a tighter range, the button is 3-betting 5.5%. Actually, you know what? I don't want to do the button. I want to do the cutoff. 5.6% cutoff versus under the gun against a tighter range. Let's see at 100 BB. Generate. And here, okay, it's less, but because it's less against a looser range. So at 200 big blinds deep, the cutoff was 3-betting 5.6% against a 15 point something percent open range. But here at 100 big blinds, it's only 3-betting 5.1% against an 18% open range. And I know that these sound like small differences, but actually, like, the difference between 18 and 15% is quite significant. Matthias says, Phil, you can also change the big blinds now in settings if that's more intuitive for you or viewers, or pick your favorite stake. Okay, so we could pick. Okay, so like, yeah, these show in small blinds. Convert to big blinds. Interesting. Yeah, so now in big blinds, it would go from, we'll see it here, to 100, because we used to have it in small blinds. That's awesome. You're always adding stuff. Yes. And then if we never do it, but we want to show, 2550, which is what I was playing earlier, let's do the default rake level higher. Yeah. And now it's 2550, and I can look at, like, this player pots to 175, and now it's folded to, no, I did it wrong. Okay. This player pots to 175, so we can click through the action too. It goes fold, and then this player can make it 600. This will help me post flop, Matthias. I like looking at dollar values, just like more intuitive to me. Most people like big blinds. I like dollar values. And if you're wondering why it was small blinds before, that's how Monker Solver does it. I assume that's why we did it that way at first, as like the default. Andrew says, is there tracking functionality in Vision, i.e. can I see my stats and how I'm performing against and where I need to improve? Use PLO Trainer, the PLO Trainer scoreboard. So we have a dashboard that I've actually never used because I haven't been studying it this year, and Matthias keeps adding stuff. And so unfortunately I haven't been using it, so we don't have that much. But you can see here a lot of stuff, and actually we haven't done, is there more from last year? Yeah, I haven't used it this year. Oh, interesting. So we could see somebody else's as an example, presumably who's played more. So we got consecutive days training. This guy has trained 35 days in a row. Longest streak was 81. He's gone over almost 200,000 pre-flop spots and flop spots. Suggested study spots. Practice spots. They're not showing. Maybe Matthias, I don't know. Maybe he's done 6 max actually. I don't know. Matthias is going to have to answer. But then you go into Let's Train and get back to training. The PLO score. Did Vision ever get rivers or still have to run in Munker? Yeah, so what we have is if you want to get any river in Vision, you can run some in Munker, but we do have rivers. So let's say we go button versus big blind. So click this rivers button and you'll only see boards that we do have rivers for. So the reason for this is that to run every single combination of like every flop betting and then every betting action, then every turn, every betting action, every river, every betting action, it's just massive. Because the way that we do this, we run these in Munker, get them very accurate, and then throw them into here with, I mean, not a manual process, but it's almost like it's like an automated manual process. And the one second. So what we did is we're adding rivers, and I mean, Matthias has added so many. But you click rivers and then you can see which boards have them. So here we'll do button versus big blind. The board I had earlier, which when we were going to study King 10-3, I'm actually going to change the suit. So it's King high suit. And here we can see the out of position strategy, but let's just say we play through it. And it goes like bet call. And turn is suit 5. Check again. Bet again. Call again. Okay, so we don't have it for this line. He's gonna have to remind me. I thought so when we go on a board that has rivers, I thought it would show us on the turn which ones do and which ones don't. Let's try check. No, still no. All right, Matthias, sorry. I know that we have rivers, but you have to help me. You have to help me find them. I'm sorry, I'm such a fish. Okay, I can't change the suits. That's why I screwed it up. Thank you. All right, so let's go back. Start over. So when I changed the suits, it was a different board than when I had clicked in the one I had clicked in rivers. Nice. All right, so check, bet, call, and then here see that the ace, the queen, the 10, the 8, and the 6 are highlighted. That means that we have rivers for those. So let's do 8 of spades. Check, bet, call, and now we can do every river. And so let's just see what happens. On the queen of spades, backdoor flush gets there. Out of position is leading 21%. And now let's get into studying. So I'll show you kind of the way that I like to study. When I am in a spot like this, I like to start by looking at the minimum value threshold. So what is the weakest value hand that can bet? Now, we can do that in a couple ways. We can go king of spades, or no, we don't have that. We can go jack of spades, spade, and press search. And we could see that some of those bet and some don't. So like jack of spades can bet, but it's going to decide based on blocker qualities. So which are the ones that are going to check? Blocking the king, it's going to be more likely to check because we run into more bluffs, blocking a king and a jack. And an ace, so like blocking straights in and stuff. Whereas here, ace, jack, jack 6, we're going to be up against more sets and so on and so forth. Let's see if we have the 10 of spades, 10 spade, spade, and then, and then we have to put no jack, I believe. Do I still have to do that? Yeah, I have to do that. And so here, it can basically, I wouldn't have small bets in this spot. There are spots I would have small bets leading river when flushes come in. But when I look at this output and it says 21% big bet, 6% small bet, I would just not have a small betting range. I think it complicates your strategy too much for very minimal EV. So basically, the way I would play this spot is I probably just wouldn't bet any 10 high flushes unless I had like a very strong read on my opponent, either their tendencies or what's going on in that particular hand. So first thing, so I figured out minimum value threshold. Minimum value threshold is jack of spades. Let's see what we want to do with the nuts. We should never have ass in this spot. We don't have nut spades. Why would we not have nut spades? So another way you can do this, which is a feature that I really like, that I was around when this was added, is hand classes. So if we load hand classes, it takes a little while, but then it's going to show us by hand category what we have. So here, if we click down into flush, we can see jack high, low, ace high. And we can see whether or not we have a straight. Oh, it says with an ace high hand, rather. Flush plus straight draw now. How do we end up with no ace of spades, Matthias? Very curious. But it's interesting that you can see here, bottom set is bluffing sometimes. So like bottom set here with a jack, like jacks and the three of spades bluffs. Ace. So if you block the nut straight and you block a spade, it likes bluffing. But here with bottom set, like it's treating threes and eights both as bottom set, which because we can only, I mean, we could make more categories, but it's pointless. But these are not blocking straights. I guess this one, ace 8-8-7, blocks some straights with the ace, but I think it wants the jack. These block it harder with jack jack and 9-9 and ace ace. So that's pretty cool. Matthias says I might have found a broken river. Sorry. Well, no. Nice. Thank you. Yeah, we do so many of these. Okay, cool. Let's see if we can pick another river. I hope it's not like a. If it's based on the turn, yeah, it's based on the turn. Okay, we had a broken like turn to river spot. Nice. All good. So let's do again. I'm trying to think what to study. I study so much, but oh, my cam froze. Why does this keep happening to me? Okay, let's switch. 1 second. I want to look at the back of my camera. You can't see me, but. Did that fix it? No, it did not. Okay. One more thing. I'll get your questions in a second. Kicked my camera. See if kicking it helped. Looks like it did. All right, you just have to kick your camera. Now I did some other things too. You could do practice post flop from flop to river. That's a new feature too, Matthias, isn't it? Yeah, practice. That's a great idea. Somalicin. That's close enough. How long is it free? 24 hours. It's 24 hours total. I actually don't know the exact start time and end time. If they're doing it on Pacific time, they told me, but I forget. I'm not sure. Dan Clementi, good to see you. Yeah, rivers are kind of hard to maintain stable as we have over 1 million rivers. By the way, guys, Matthias, if you see him in chat, he's the wizard of all of this. And if I say something and he says something, he's right. It says in previous actions, all combinations with the ace and nuts flush are leads or re-raises or something different from the current line. That could be possible, but it seems unlikely to me. Okay, so practice. This is a new feature too. There's not practice post flop. No, I actually we had that before. Practice post flop. Oh no, play from flop to river. We can go. We'll start normal. Scare me. We'll do 100 big blinds, and let's do single raise pots. Situation, single raise pot. Yeah, let's do the rest. Rest out of here. We can do three of pots later. Let's do preflop aggressor in position. And all boards. And let's not have the big blind donk. Flop heads up, check. Okay, and actually let's not do out of position first. So basically checked to the preflop raiser only. As you can see, there are a lot of options here. We'll do any turn. All right, so here we are. You can see up here, 100 big blinds, single raise pot, under the gun versus big blind. Big blind is checked on this board. We are first, and we can practice. So if we were doing heads up, I would know exactly what to do. Well, not exactly what to do, but the way I would describe spots would be very accurate. Here, less so. So this is a hand I would think is just a check because it's just too weak. This is going to be a high-ish c-bet frequency board. And this is the sizing I would use. But I just think this is too weak. And so I would start checking. Yeah, so we always check this. Basically every combo of ace, 8-6. I was curious if with a backdoor it might do something different, but it doesn't. So let's then, rather than just look at this hand and play it through, I'm actually, which I think some of you might find more fun, I'll show you how I actually study. So the way that I would study this spot is I would go to hand classes, and I would load classes. And so the first thing you'll see that's interesting is sets are only betting 62% of the time. That's probably going to surprise a lot of people. And bottom set is actually mostly checking. So when you have 8-8 here, remind me how to do this. There we go. Yeah. So here, this feature, it's showing that 75% bet is a preferred option. And here it's showing check as a preferred option. When I click this on the top right, it changes it to frequency. So this is how often we have each hand. If you have watched my PLO course, this is PLO. And actually, if you, I'm doing another course on how to study with solvers. You'll know that I'm obsessed with how often we have each category of hand. So I love this feature to see how often we have each category of hand. So you can see we have a set 11% of the time, but we only have bottom set 1.7% of the time. Usually it's top set. And this is just a function of under the gun pre-flop ranges. We rarely fold king under the gun. I mean, sometimes, but rarely. A lot of jack will fold and a lot of 8-8 will fold under the gun. But bottom set is actually a check. And as you can see here, with an open ender, these are kind of similar. But so open ender with no backdoor flush draw, and then backdoor flush draw with with a straight draw of some kind. We do bet, and so what you'll usually see is that and so here's an example of a heuristic that this individually is implying, but also I observe over time, is that when you are on early streets, and when you're on early streets and you're trying to decide like which of a hand category to bet, the solver generally likes to build big pots with hands that like to play big pots. So hands for which there are more turns that it can continue betting and more rivers it can continue betting, either for value or as a bluff. So you might see on a board like this, like you'll see a lot of betting from future blockers. And so sometimes when I say, oh, hands that want to build big pots, people think, oh, so good hands. No, sometimes it's bad hands or like decent draws, or like maybe like king 10-10 that is going to be able to bluff on like 8x and on a turned queen and on a turn 9 and on an ace and so on and so forth. So sometimes it's hands that want to build big pots because their blockers become so valuable in those big pots, and other times it's hands that want to build big pots because they want to push a lot of equity and they want to be able to bet 3 streets. And so here with bottom set, when you have an open ender, you're going to end up with the nuts more often on the river. You're going to be able to call a check raise more often and so on and so forth. So you want to build bigger pots. And then your weakest bottom sets, like ace, king, 8-8. So especially when you block the pairs. So king, jack actually gives you more, you're beat less often, but you're mostly getting called by draws that have good equity anyway. And you're not going to get called down multiple streets by them. So yeah, like these are weaker combinations of sets. With top set, I think you'll mostly see the same, but I think the ones that you check, obviously any top set can build a big pot, but you have to trap sometimes. Sorry, I'm seeing a lot of interesting that top set bets more, opposite of Hold'em. Yeah, in Hold'em, the blocker qualities of top set are just so powerful, but in PLO, it's so much easier. And also, well, yeah. In PLO, it's so much, there's so many more hand categories, so many more cards that can continue, that can check raise, that can check call twice, and so on and so forth. So with top set, what I'm predicting is the checks are mostly going to come from like king, king, jack, king, 8. And they're not going to come. So sometimes you see some checks with like king, queen, 10 that crushes everything. I don't think we're going to see that in this spot as much. I think that that's more of a bet. And I don't think you see that on this board. I think on like certainly like ace, ace, king 3 with the ace 3 of hearts, you would see ace, ace, king 10 with king high hearts. I would think that would trap a decent amount, where you just have the board completely crushed. But here, all right, so actually I was wrong. It is doing that on this board. So when you have an open ender, so you just have the board kind of crushed, you do more trapping. So king, 10, 9, and some king, queen 10. I mean, you're mixing betting and checking. So it does do this on this board. So with bottom set, you check your worst, bet your best. With top set, not in every spot, but in this spot, you kind of bet your worst and check your best, sort of. But let's see with no draw. I mean, yeah, so no draw with 3 kings, with a jack, with an 8. This one with 4-4, I think probably just because it's so weak that you don't block any. So you'd rather have like a straight card. So like, let's see the ones that bet in this category. All the way at the bottom are the ones that bet the highest frequency. Interestingly, king, jack 5, that surprises me. King, 6-4 has a backdoor straight draw. I don't know how much that matters. Same with 5-4. King, 10 doesn't surprise me. That's kind of the one that I expected to do more betting. But actually, there's not as much of a pattern here as I expected in terms of which weak ones to bet. It's kind of just doing a lot of mixing and probably making sure that out of position is not going to, like, I don't know, be able to use blocker effects to make precise hand reads. I want to pause here because I'm going into nerd out mode. And again, pull back to, I think, the most important concept in studying with solvers. You don't have to do this. You should not try to get this level of precision. And so you have a couple options. One is take the heuristics away. And so you could say, okay, with top set and open enders, I'm going to do a little bit of checking. And with top set that blocks a jack or like, you know, second pair, second set or bottom set, I'm going to do more checking. You can do that. Or you can say something like, okay, well, top set, I'm going to bet 80% of the time. So you can see if I close this, it's easier to see. If you hover over this, 79% of top sets are betting. 22% are checking. I guess that's a rounding error, but it's 79-21, let's say. So let's say you want to bet 80% and check 20%. And I think that, first of all, I think that's more important than getting the exact blockers right. And so you could just say, okay, with top set, I'm going to use an RNG and I'm going to bet 80% of the time. Or you could learn something about, like, okay, when I have king, let's go back to classic. When I have king, what percentage of the time do I also have a jack? And here you can see that it's, okay, well, it's 1% of hands are king, jack. And how many hands are king with no jack? Or actually, let's just do king total. So king total is 6.2%. We want to check 20%. So 20% of 6.2 is 1.2%, right? Yeah. So we want to check a total of 1.2% hands. So let's say, I don't remember if commas work. King, jack, king, 8. Yeah, combined are 1.6. So if we checked king every time we had a jack or an 8 with our kings, we would be kind of close to the right frequency of checking. And the reason I think that in your studying, figuring out something like this is so important, you could also just do king, jack if you want. Because king, jack gets you to 0.9, which is actually a little closer to, and actually the way people play, I would rather do this. Because they're not going to put in enough aggression when you check back anyway. Actually, the way, if you're playing like not high stakes, I would probably just bet every top set because they're not going to do anything about it. And they're not bluffing enough. They're not, like, they're calling too wide. So I'd rather just play a higher EV. But if you're playing like against excellent opponents where it is important to check back some, I would probably use a strategy like this and say, like, okay, well, I know that, like, roughly, and I would look at a couple other boards to make sure it's kind of a similar pattern. But I would say, okay, on a rainbow board, I'm going to check back top set when I block second pair, and that's it. And the benefits of this, or the benefits of saying 80-20 and using an RNG, is that you don't have to use brain power to figure out, okay, wait, was it the like queen nine? Was it king, king, queen nine a check? King, king, queen 10? Okay, what if I have like the straight draw, but also like a pair blocker? So, or no, you can't do that. What if I have like a pair blocker, but also a straight blocker? Or what if I have a pair blocker with no straight blocker? And like trying to remember that, that's wasting so much mental bandwidth. And my belief, I know I missed chat for a while, but I'm kind of going on a rant. My belief, and like this is a very, like one of my strongest poker beliefs, is that the way to gain the biggest edge in poker is to have your default strategy on autopilot, and not use your bandwidth for that, and have your mental bandwidth for everything in game, whether it's thinking of your reads on this specific opponent and how you want to adjust based on that. And there's some very nuanced adjustments you can find if you have that brain power. Or it's paying attention to his bet sizing on the turn and like, okay, what do I know about this player? What do I think this bet sizing means? Do I think he's going to be over bluffing for this or under bluffing for this? And what do I want to do about it? Having your brain free for that stuff, that's where all the edge comes from, in my humble opinion. Okay, I'll stop my rant. Let's see what you guys are asking. How do you get the frequencies to show? You click on this top right thing, and it'll go from showing the bet size to showing the frequencies. And then the second one, I don't know. Okay, we also have way more top sets in general, so proportions are wacky, yeah. Bottom set situation is similar to that cash game moment with threes yesterday. I don't know if you remember. I don't remember actually. But thank you for remembering whatever it is. Nancy, so is your process when studying things like this, where you're coming up with guesses like this, then checking the answer in solver and test / deliberate practice? I start out by learning the concepts a little bit first, because I'm not going to have guesses until I have done some level of studying. Okay, yeah, that button does that, but it was just a little delayed. I'm going to take us to heads up because I'm just, well, no, whatever. This is fine. We can keep doing this. But yeah, I think once I start, once I understand like a baseline, then yeah, I like to pause and guess. And I like to think, okay, so what's my minimum value in this spot? So one of my favorite things to do is like, what's minimum value in this spot? And so on turn and river. So let's use an example. So let's take this, if I click continue, I'm going to take this to study, learn mode. And so it goes check. Now we're going to have imposition bet, call. And then I want to see something with a river. So let's have one straight come in with a 7. Check, bet, call. And let's see a flush come in. And now the question is, what is the minimum value threshold for imposition? And so the way that I would do this is, and I'm going to be totally guessing. So when out of position, so we're going to have to reduce a little bit because out of position has donks here, but I'll hold it here for now. So when out of position, check calls pre-flop. I'm going to guess, so I know this in heads up, but in 6max I don't. I'm going to guess that like they have a 2-spade hand something like 25% of the time. And then when they check call flop, it doesn't really change. Maybe it goes down a little bit because the king of spades is there. So let's call it like 23% of the time. And then when they check call turn, like if they turn spades, which is going to be 23% of the time roughly, according to my flop guess, my pre-flop and my flop guess. And then they check call a 75% bet. That means that they had 100% range with 23 of it being flush draws. And against 75%, they're probably folding. I mean, we could see how much, but they're probably folding something like 42% of the time. So I'm going to use, in order to make the math easy for me, I'm just going to pretend it's 50% and then adjust it a little bit. So if they called 50% of the time, which actually they don't because they raise sometimes. But yeah, I think that anyway, if they called 50% of the time, then they'd have a flush draw 46% of the time by the time they get to this river. And so they're going to have 46% flushes. Now, I think instead, some like ace 10-9, well, like 10-9 with spades is going to raise the turn a decent amount. Some like ace queen 10 with spades is going to raise the turn. So some of those will get reduced because of raises. And then they are calling a little bit more than what I said. So I would take it from 46 to something like, if we were doing heads up, I would be within a few percent, but we're not doing heads up. So instead of 46, I would take it to something like, let's say 30, 38, 40. Let's just do 40 to make it easy. And then they're leading 8%. So they're going to remove, well, they're actually leading 25%. And this is going to be, for simplicity, of this 23%, let's say that like 15% are flushes. It's actually going to be a little more than that. Let's say of the 23, for easy math, let's just call it 15 and say they were at 38. And so that takes them down to 23% flushes. No, let's say it takes them down to, I'm going to guess 25% flushes is what they're down to. And if they're down to 25% flushes, that means probably we can bet like, I'm going to guess that we can bet like jack high spades are better for pot, and 9 high spades we could not. So that's my guess. So if we look at like jack high spades, oh, with no ace, I'm actually wrong. Okay, so no, that's too thin. So it's going to be, let's see, queen high spades with no ace. And actually, some of those might have been queen. Okay, so queen high spades with no ace can always bet, but usually small. So it actually seems like value threshold is only ace of spades. Maybe a lot of their leads, their small leads, were weaker flushes. So then their checking range, even if it is like 25% flushes, it's a lot of like, I don't know, ace high and jack high flushes. So so for example, the way that we would check my math, we can check it across a few streets, but let's say we pot. Now, let's just see how often they have a flush. 27.5%. I said 25%. So pretty close. But as you can see, it's going to be the nut flush 44% of the time. And then also they're going to sometimes have the ace of spades with no flush. Uh, 2.5% of the time. So, and they're obviously raising that. So then they're going to get to raise 46% of the time. Is that right? 2.5 plus 44. So yeah, 46% of the time. So basically, we can't really. And when they do raise, do we just have to fold our full range? No, we actually do a fair bit of calling. I mean, we're getting great pot odds, but it seemed like, oh, I guess they're going to raise some hands that are not ace of spades. Sorry that I'm kind of, let's remove spade, and remove ace of spades. No, they're never raising. So this is weird. So if they're raising a range of, they're raising 14% of the time. Oh, okay. That's why I did. Okay. So spade. They have it 44% of the time that they have a flush. but the total spade amount is 27.5. So then if we do just a spade, we can see 12% of the time. So they have 12% of nut flushes and then 2.5% of basically bluffs. And we're getting, what does that call, 15 to win? Well, that's what, 15 out of 10K. So we have to be good like 15% of the time. And that probably, yeah, that works out to like a good bluff ratio. And they've probably like, the donking range in these spots are very nuanced because they're like trying to get the out of position frequencies to a certain level. Anyway, that's how I think about it. I think about all the frequency of how often each player has different hands. I was close. I said 25% flushes, but I didn't realize how many would be nut flushes. And so then I thought that we could value bet jack spades with no ace of spades, queen of spades. And I was wrong. I mean, you could small bet it. And here, I guess technically, here it potted, a couple combos of it. But, yeah. Queen spade. It's more likely. I'm going to catch up on chat shortly. Yeah, queen spade. But without 3 spades, you actually don't want the extra spade, which surprises me a tiny bit. I guess that wants to small bet, but. So I was off by 1 pip, kind of, maybe 1.5 pips because some of this is betting small. But that's how I think through hands, is like trying to figure out the frequency that each player has each thing. I go in depth in the course that's already out. This is PLO, and then it's going to be out in the future. By the way, before I'm going to get into chat. No, I'll get into chat now. John Smith, do you think all top players incorporate exploits, or are the top guys just memorizing and attempting to play this? I think that all the top players incorporate exploits. And I think there are, well, it depends what you mean by top. I think the best player in the world that incorporates exploits is going to beat the best player in the world who doesn't. I'll put it that way. Dan C says, I rarely actually think through the percentages or hand classes per street. I should do this more for sure, I think. Yeah, and you can do it. So like a lot of people do it in Hold'em. They don't do it in percentage. They do it in combos. So in Hold'em, you can count combos. In PLO, you can't count combos because there are, however, I'm not going to even guess the magnitude, but a massive amount. Run It Once says, hey, Run It Once, by the way. The code will work. Oh, okay. I can't believe I forgot about the code too. So thank you, Run It Once. So if you're enjoying the free thing, both this stream and the free access today, there is a bonus code. So if you enter code StudyStream at checkout, you get like buy one, get one, whether you buy 3 months. Let's say you buy a quarter of this, you get a quarter free. If you buy 1 month, you get a 1 month free. And I think, unfortunately for our most loyal fans, correct me if I'm wrong on once, I think that's only for people who don't already have vision. Matt Rolfe, thank you for doing this. You're welcome. So yeah, Dan C, they do it in combos, but in Hold'em. Isn't 2.5 plus 27? I missed that. Thank you guys, by the way, for answering questions for me while I've been nerding out. 1312 Mork says the fact that this content is free is wild. Thank you. You're welcome. And actually, like as I was saying this, I am like I'm stepping on the toes a little bit of my course that's going to come out on this stuff, but that's fine. I can't help it. Matthias says you need the 3 spades for your small bet call range. It induces more bluffs and more thin value against non-flushes. That makes a lot of sense. So the reason that like queen spade with 3 spades is going to bet smaller is because if you pot, you mostly get called, or maybe only get called by flushes. No. If you pot and they have 20, no. If you pot and they have 27% flush or nut spades, that means 27.5. That means that 22.5% of the time that you have to call with a hand that's not a flush. But then with queen, spade, spade, with an extra spade, you're not getting that much value. So when you bet smaller, now they have to call. Like if we just look at their full range, and actually let's do hand classes. Yeah, 27.5% flushes. Oh, okay, that's more than I thought. I thought it was 25, and then anyway, whatever. Close. Oh no, I said 25. It was 27.5. So yeah, it's 30% this plus nut blocker, and then 20% calls against pot with other stuff. But here, now they have to call most of their sets, most of their straights as well. Whereas had we potted, and we look at their hand classes, now they get to fold most of their sets and most of their straights, which means that we get less value when we block those lower flushes as well. Thank you, Matthias. Good call. Maniello asks, how did I come up with the probability of how often he has spades pre-flop? So I know this from heads up. So basically heads up, you're going to get dealt two of a suit 20% of the time. So, and like both positions play close to 100% of their hands. So if button raises and big blind calls, they roughly each have, two spades in their hand, or two diamonds, or two clubs, or two hearts 20% of the time. Now, if it goes raise three bets, the big blind three betting range, because it's tighter, has two spades or two diamonds, and so on and so forth, 30% of the time. And so I was guessing that when he calls a raise out of the big blind, his range in terms of suitedness was somewhere in between, but was like obviously more than 20. But I thought less than a big blind, less than, a big blind three betting range heads up. So we can see here, if we just look at spade, spade, how often he has that. I should have done classic, but yeah, it's actually 29% of the time. So I guess 25, it's actually closer to a heads up three betting range at 29%. So let's just keep an eye on it throughout. So spade, spade, 28.9%. He checks, he faces a bet. He's got that 29% spades. He's going to call 34% of the time with his full range, 33% of the time with his spades. So what that means is spades are not overrepresented or underrepresented in his calling range. And this is kind of what I said. I thought it was going to be slightly underrepresented, which it's, I guess, slightly is. But am I doing that right? Yeah. It's very slightly underrepresented because I thought of king of spades would be a common one in his hand. So now he calls, and what did we say? Seven of spades. And so he has 26.5% spades now. So first of all, the frequency got slightly reduced because there's now a spade out there. And then also because it was very slightly reduced because he called with a spade a little bit less often than he called with his global, like his overall frequency. I didn't factor in the leading range. So he's going to lead 21% of the time, and he's going to lead spades 26% of the time. So once again, that's going to make his checking range slightly underrepresented in spades. So it'll go from 26% to like, you can do ballpark math here. You don't need to be precise. So let's say it goes from 26 to like 24, 26.5 to 24. So now when he checks, he faces a bet. Yeah, he's got it 25%, 24.7% of the time. And we can see that he's calling 44% of the time, but he's calling with spades 70% of the time. So if you do, how do we do this? 70 over 44, I think. So that's 1.6. I think I'm doing this right. So you take 1.6 times 25%. Equals 39% spades. So now when he calls, if the river's a brick, he should have like 39% spades. Let's see. Yeah, exactly 39% spades. If the river is a spade, I guess the deuce of spades is probably not going to change it much. 37.5% spades. And if the river is like a 10 of spades, it's probably going to drop it a little more. Yeah, 34.5%. So the river we did was the deuce of spades. And so he has 37.5% spades. I'm trying to think at this point I was guessing. I think I guessed 38 to 40%. So it's pretty close. But then I said, okay, so he's betting 23%, but I figured that he would be betting spades. Well, I figured that of this 23%, 18%, no, 15% of that 23% were flushes. And so what we can see here is he's betting 43% of 37.5%. So equals 16%. I guessed 15%. So I was basically dead on there, which means this is where I screwed up. So what I took that as is I thought it was like 40% minus 15, or no, 38% minus 15, which is where I got 23. But I forgot that also he's not checking. He's not checking 100%. He's only checking 77%. So what I should have done is take that 23% that I was thinking, which is very close, I think, to reality, and do 23% times 70. So 23 times 77%. No. Divided by 77%, right? So 23 divided by 0.77. And then you get 20, you basically get 30%. So then the 20 checks and we bet. I think you should have 30%. It's 27.5. Probably, I'm not sure if that's because we have spades a lot when we bet or not, but it's ballpark there. So that was all the math. Nick H says, Phil, are there any other solver whisperers you talk to that potentially guide these kind of interpretations, intuitions? Yeah, I have two friends who I've studied a lot with in recent years. And one of them is like super, like the things that I'm telling you today came from him. He's very technical, extremely technical and math oriented. If you read Mathematics of Poker, that kind of informs the way that like this thought process. Well, I mean, he's a genius, so like he took that and ran with it. I mean, the people who wrote that are geniuses too, but I haven't read it, so I don't know how much of that fed into his thought process here. But he taught me this. He taught me how to kind of narrow or widen people's ranges in terms of percentage that they have different hands. And then I have another friend who I'd say is more like me, a little more of an exploitative player. And we kind of think less technical, bigger picture, but it has also helped me interpret these things. All right. I hope you guys like nerding out. By the way, I do want to say, like, so many people who watch poker streams or watch poker content on TV, this is like another mini rant. They think why would anybody like get a poker coach or like pay for poker training? Because like I know how to play poker. Like, yeah, I'm not winning, or like I'm maybe like breaking even at my local 1-2 game, or barely winning, but like I know how to play the game. Why would I need a coach? Why would I need to learn things? And if you've watched the last hour, how long have we been going? Yeah, probably the last 40 minutes or 30 minutes where I've been super nerding out. Not one of these thoughts would have entered their mind at any point. Yet they think the game is so simple that you wouldn't need to study it. And hopefully if some of you fit in that category and are watching this right now, you realize how much more there is to the game than you understand. It actually, I'm trying to be honest with myself. And when I like that reaction, that belief is so prevalent out there. And I learned it because of my newsletter. At the beginning of my newsletter, when you sign up for my newsletter, you get a survey and it asks you questions like your goals and aspirations in poker. And it also asks you what you've done to study poker. And it just blew my mind how many people want to be a professional or a semi-professional, like earn a side income, and have not studied with anything other than like watching poker on TV. It like blew my mind. And I'm trying to be honest with myself if it frustrates me because I own a training site, or if it frustrates me because just like there are so many people out there that like are like missing the point and robbing themselves of the experience. Like actually, like they have this dream that they want to earn an income from poker or go pro, and they are not taking any of the steps to get there because they just like can't see it for some reason. And the I think one thing that really frustrates me is when I, I can't get through to somebody, because one of the things I really value is being able to teach. And I have this belief that like, okay, if I understand it, I'm a good enough teacher that I can explain it in a way that can make anybody understand it. Like, yeah, maybe if I'm talking like one to many like this, I won't always like hit every single person. But if I could have a one-on-one conversation, I could make them see it. And even one to many, I feel like I should be able to. And so when like I can't get through to people, or like they can't understand that, it tilts me. Anyway, that was after a couple strategy rants. That's my study, like my study strategy rant. What does Vision cost? We have a lot of different plans, so check it out. But it's similar in price roughly to our elite membership, which is pricey. But I think for what it is, and it's nothing. I mean, like 150 a month for the yearly plan, 4 card. Yeah. Chris Wu says, would love to subscribe, but I would need help using the trainer as well as deciphering solutions. Otherwise, I think this would be I would be a little discouraged using this. Is there help for this included in the plan? We have a Discord that Matthias and others are very active in, and I think that they could help you study quite a bit. There people learn together and they ask each other questions. I think I have, just because I'm a nerd, I have nerded out on this a lot more than you need to. And like, actually, the way that I'm explaining this is a way that I think a lot of 510 PLO pros don't use it. Like don't. I think that if they're watching this, a lot of this will be news to them. That this is how I study and this is how I think they should study. So I have nerded out quite a bit. It's not as intimidating as this, and there are a lot of really cool features that make it so like intuitive, especially like, yeah, that make it so intuitive. I try to learn this at a very high level, at a very high level, and B, in a way that I can simplify it in my mind as much as possible. And that does require a lot of nerding out. The Giggity Giss says, I've never used Google as a calculator. Yeah, I mean, I have a calculator app somewhere, but I think it's just easier. DJ and Twins says, one thing about poker is it can be so subjective, so I feel it makes it hard to teach, especially in difficult spots. Yeah, I mean, theory is not subjective, but then what you do with that theory is very subjective. But that's where I think, I mean, that's why there are different areas of training. So there are solver tools like Vision that tell you the objective answers. And then there are training videos, and there is group coaching, and there are one-on-one coaches who can tell you how to interpret those subjective answers and use them in the game. And yes, when a coach is like, if I'm coaching you, my belief in what to do with it is subjective, but it's an expert subjective belief. And so, we bring in coaches that run at once that we think are experts who are crushing games. And so, and who are able to teach it well too. So their subjective takes on the objective answers, I think is, on average going to point you in the right direction. Julian says it's just rare in any field for someone to do the hard study work. Yeah. But the crazy thing is, I don't study that much. Once I figured out how to study and like pull the concepts, I study a lot less than my opponents do, because it's just about getting the heuristics down, and it's not about memorizing everything. And if you do that base studying to get it, and then you just play and you look up hands that you're curious about, and you say, oh, interesting, I was way off here, because I thought that whatever, sets would want a small bet because of this, but I see now on this particular board, because of these qualities of the board, sets want to bet big because of blah, 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 board coverage, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, DJ Twins. Everybody want to be Steph Curry, but don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. shooting threes all day. Yeah. Lucas says, "Yep, news to me." Nick says, "Phil, earlier you mentioned trying to get your base strategy down to use your energies in game. What's your own experience with potentially focusing on 100% solver minutia over all else?" Um, I had a very, you guys saw what happened when I tried to do that, because the first time I learned to study, I went and played Veni Vidi in the Galfon Challenge, and was trying to process everything I learned about solvers. And I was like, I did some game planning, so like I did have some adjustments from solver strategy, but all of my brain power is going towards game plan. It was not going towards hand reading and what was going on in the moment. And it took a few things. It took like, first of all, time. So like I was studying and then implementing, and it took time for all of it to click in my mind. So like, even if I had known the right approach immediately, I still wouldn't have been able to do it, because like the information was still too new. And so I needed time to process it while playing. I needed time for it to click. But also some guidance from actually the two friends I was telling you about, some guidance from the non-technical friend about how to kind of, actually from both of them, but more from the non-technical friend, about how to kind of like pull back to like pull back some of the things from my old self. And like they actually said, like a part of the way through it, I was not doing well. I was losing, as you may know. They said like, okay, Phil, we actually think that the old you would be a favorite in this match, like before you ever studied with a solver. So why not go back to take some of the things you've learned, but go back to the old you and the way that you thought through PLO and the way that you played against opponents. And that was one of the few things that helped make it click. Tom Solo, why was your career centered around PLO? Should I play less No Limit Hold'em? No, I actually think No Limit Hold'em is a great game to play. The reason that I kind of landed on PLO by accident. What happened was I was playing, at that point, like I was up to nosebleed stakes, like 300, 600 No Limit Hold'em. And the game started not dying, but happening less and less frequently, getting tougher. But then the nosebleeds, like the 200, 400, 300, 600 PLO games were running all the time. It's back in the day on full tilt. And I was like, well, the action's going there. I need to learn it. And so I learned it. There were no tools like this, but I spent time learning it, worked with some friends who helped me, and then just like watch videos. Actually, most of the learning came from watching training videos, specifically from Brian Hastings, who was making card runner PLO videos that I really liked. And then I played PLO for a while, and it just so happened that like the games at No Limit kept dying for a little bit. And I became so focused on PLO that by the time the games picked up again, I had been out of No Limit Hold'em for a few years, and I didn't have the confidence to get back into it. I was like, man, these players are probably so far ahead of me now. And this kind of coincided with the advent of solvers, which came out earlier in No Limit Hold'em. And I was just like, you know what, I'm too far behind. And so I didn't even try, which I think was a big mistake on my part. I really regret that. And so then, more time passed and I was still playing PLO. I actually went on to Deuce 7 triple draw because the same thing happened. PLO games died and a lot of the action was a Deuce 7 triple draw. And yeah, just kind of like I got away from No Limit Hold'em while everybody got so much better. And I've said this a few times, like I would love a fair No Limit Hold'em heads up challenge so that I could learn the game again and like had a reason to like really dive in and study for a high stakes game. When I asked for that, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I was like, hey, does anybody want to, play No Limit Hold'em who's, would be a fair fight, because I haven't played it in 17 years. It's 17, 15 years. I don't know. Haven't played it is not literally true, but like I haven't played No Limit Hold'em as a professional, in 15 years. And by as a professional, I mean like I only play it recreationally. I play it for like, No Limit Hold'em tournaments for fun. I'll play in like a TV cash game or something like that. But like never as part of my like never to earn. I don't have like an EV there, outside of like soft, no, soft tournaments, of course. And if there were soft cash games that ever let me in, but yeah, the people, Linus was like, yeah, I'll play you. That's not what I meant. Eric Eric says I'm getting destroyed on streak. LOL. Yeah. What spots are you looking at? So the spots that I tend to not study in streak are like, well, at least with heads up, is like, uh, I don't like being like out of position on the turn after check calling, because technically in solver, in vision, you'll have some turn leads, but I play with no leads on the turn. I don't dock the turn with it in any spot in PLO. In any heads up spot in PLO. And so I've never studied it. So I just always get those wrong. I just try to check my full range there, and my streak goes away. Nick HGA, you're welcome for the answer. DGen, 4 cards is more fun, 5 even more funner. I haven't played 5 card much. Tilty Fish price is justifiable. IMO, got to figure in the time it took to put together the content, running sims, etc. Nothing wrong with valuing one's time. Yeah, I mean, like if you play any reasonable stakes, like the amount of time that it would take you, well, first of all, the cost to set up a server, to buy Monk or Solver, to run sims for yourself, and then actually the time it will take you to run sims, like whereas Vision has, first of all, has all of these sims run, and second of all, has the interface that makes it so much easier to understand, and all of these tools that make it more fun to study. Like Streak was something we came up with when we brought Vision over to run it once, and it just makes it so much more fun to study by gamifying it. And so there are a lot of things that help you study better. I think it's if you're serious about PLO, I think it's well worth it. If you're like a recreational 2.5 PLO player, I don't think it's worth it, unless like you just have a lot of money and you'd like to get a little bit better, but not necessarily spend a lot of time on it, and then it's fine. But let's see this question. Less work, more travel. One mental block I have is the nature of poker being so self-serving. My mom and brother work for the National Health Service. I make money from DJs and then feel guilty. Any suggestions? I think that there are very few jobs that there are some jobs that really like serve people and help people, and I think those are noble, and I think that contribution is one of the most rewarding and fulfilling things that you can do in your life. But just because you're not making that contribution in your job doesn't mean you can't do it elsewhere. And I think that like most jobs, like, yeah, if you're working customer service somewhere, you're technically helping people, but like they were going to get help anyway. Like, I don't know. I guess you could say that with doctors too, but basically, like, unless you're a doctor, like even, I don't know, lawyers, like, yeah, you help people and you sue people. I don't know. I just think all the jobs like end up being like, most of them kind of are net neutral. And then there are a few that are just like, really, really valuable. And I think there are lots of ways to help people. Okay. Moonlight Master, now we are back to waiting for an NL Challenger so we can get Phil back in NL Cash. I think it'd be really fun. Lucas, course and certification usually runs that cost. That cost. The value justifies the long study as you can afford the time and research. Braz, a good question. Why the regret if you're in this position where you're at? Why chance on not knowing how it would be? Yeah, I think regret is probably the wrong word. I learned from the experience. Like I learned, I think it was a mistake. I think it was a mistake to not get back in an Element Hold'em when I was just a few years removed. And I had this solver phobia that actually Vision helped me overcome, as well as Elliott Rowe helped me overcome, where I just thought that like I wasn't going to be a good player in the post-solver era because solver, like I'm not a studier, I'm not a I have bad memory, I have bad study habits, I was a terrible student. So like I just thought that the players in the post-solver era who would be best would be the ones that study the hardest and memorize the most. And that was not going to be me. It was never going to be me. So yeah, that was part of the reason I shied away, and actually was very happy to learn in the Galfond challenges and studying with Vision that that's just not the case, that the same skills are really important. Let's see. Yeah, like Dancy, graduating in computer science. I look at my other options of working for Facebook, Google, Amazon, etc. Hard to say that I'm doing more good for the world compared to playing poker, to be honest. Yeah, it's like, I think it's kind of the same. Could you mathematically calculate how your flop? Moonlight Master disagrees. I assume, just given the timing was the same as when Dancy said that, was about the poker thing as a career. John Smith, I feel like you're contradicting yourself. On one hand, you say getting more spots right in PLO vision makes you better. On the other hand, exploiting is where the edge is. How do you balance these two? Yeah, exploiting is where the edge is, but you have to start from the baseline of optimal strategy or a rough understanding of how poker works. And so when I went through this like percentage breakdown earlier, that was an explanation of like how poker works. And it means that you can put me in any bizarre spot. I mean, not just that individual calculation, but you could put me in some bizarre spot that I've never seen before, or even in a game that I've never heard of before. And not instantly, but I could take some time and think about how the game might work. And I could get to a solution that would be like roughly okay. Learning the spots and getting like your default strategy down is what allows you to use your mental bandwidth to make exploits. So yeah, I think they go together. Martin says, could you mathematically calculate how your flop c-bet will increase in case their flop c-bet like raise, their flop check raise is 8% instead of 13%? It should go from 43 to X. No. Oh, it looks like my camera's bugging again. Let me know if it goes out. No, I think, I don't think there's a clear formula there, but I think you can know directionally that you should c-bet more if they're not check raising as much. Dancy, Phil, it would take you like 3 months of study to be battling the best Nolan Hold'em and bit of pre-flop, and you'll be good. Nolan Hold'em is a more creative hand-ready game than PLO, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I know that I could do it. I think it's going to take more than 3 months because it takes like studying solvers and then like reading hands. Part of reading hands, it takes practice like in the new game. Like, yes, it's the same skills, but I need to see patterns. I need to play, and it just like, I don't know. When I got back into PLO, even like for the challenges, even though PLO was already my main game, I just hadn't been playing much and I hadn't studied solvers. I studied for like 2 months, and then it took me 2 more months of play to like kind of get it pretty well. But then still, like over the course of the year, I got better and better. So I think it would take me more than 3 months. Mix. When you wanted to solve mixed, you went in your room and came up with the formula. I don't know what that means. Do you mean like, Cone says, I heard you say you're a huge studier. When you wanted to solve mixed, you went in your room and came up with the formula. I don't know what you mean, but I'm definitely not a huge studier. DJ Twin says, Phil being a bad student and Crusher gives me hope, lol. And says, I haven't used it personally for Heads Up. I did purchase his course for Heads Up. I use 6 Max and it's just massive. I try it out and find out. I don't work for them, lol. Do you mean, so you bought, this is PLO, Ken? And you're saying that Vision was massive. I'm curious if PLO, how helpful PLO was to your 6 Max game. I did go through like some of these concepts in the course that could then apply to studying 6 Max, but I'm curious otherwise. All right, yeah, let's get back to some general studying, and let's do some studying with a little bit less nerding out. So post flop, 100 big blind. Were these the options I had checked before? No. Post flop, play from flop to river, normal, flop heads up. Okay. Let's just play through some spots, and I'm not gonna. I'll like explore some hands, but I'm not gonna go super deep. I did Vision was master for 6 Max. I was answering. Oh, Nick H. Okay, cool. Do in your this is PLO is 1 minus alpha, but I didn't understand. Do you still not understand 1 minus alpha? Because I I think a lot of people would like to learn about it, so I can talk about it if so. All right, so this is button versus big blind. Again, up here, single raise pot, button versus big blind. Check to us. We have a 10 blocker. We have a 7 of hearts. We have a backdoor spade draw. I think this is a check because it's just too weak, but it would not surprise me if this hand bet. Okay, it's a pure bet. Cool. I guess we're betting 49% of our range. We have a range advantage against the big blind, and 10 blocker, very little chance of winning. 7 of hearts, which gives us like runouts we can bluff on, and means we have 2 outs to a set. Folding out higher backdoor spades are good too. So let's try a new hand. This hand I think is a check. Wrong again. I'm such a 6-max fish. With 1 heart and no spade, it would check. But with 1 heart, 1 spade, it bets. I think those are the same hand, and so like there's an EV difference, but it's negligible. So I'm not counting this as wrong. But let's continue. Let's say I did bet. Get called. This is an interesting turn spot. I actually think this might be a bet. We could fold out some king jack, some king queen, making our boat outs more live. We have a heart. We can fold out straights. Okay, so it bets half the time. With the 5 of hearts, queen of spades, it checks. With the 5 of hearts, jack of spades, it bets. Again, these are the same hands to me, so whatever. Check to me on the river. I think it's just a check. It's a little bit too much showdown value. We rarely win, but yeah. All right, new hand. Oh, okay, new hand in this spot. I meant to go reload. This is a check as well. Let's reload. Go back to the flop. King e4, this hand. Remember from earlier, the strongest bottom sets are going to bet, so I think this is almost definitely going to bet. Bitcoin asks, hi, is there a chance of This Is PLO getting new chapters added in the future? For example, sessions of Jungleman Match would be awesome, or new 6-max modules, etc. Yeah, I think I would like to do that. I feel like it needs more 6-max, and I don't have 6-max content to put in. And so I feel like, I don't know. I either want to, which of those, I assume you have it. Which of those would you like more, or anybody else who has the course? What would you like to see more of? Because like doing more session reviews against Jungleman and like analyzing some hands in Vision, like that's not hard for me, and I'd be happy to do it. But I feel like there is already so much heads up PLO content in that course that what it would benefit from is more 6-max. And actually that's what's harder for me because I don't like, I mean, I'll probably be playing 6-max PLO later tonight on stream, just, on WSOP.com, but I'm not studying it regularly. And so it would require, for me to teach the 6-max stuff well, it would require me to spend months studying 6-max and playing 6-max, which I don't really have access to many games. Lucas, you're welcome. Poker says, for the games I play, almost impossible to solve or play GTO. 7-handed minimum, 5 to the flop every hand. How do you plug that in? Yeah, you don't. I think in Munker, you could probably run that if you have if you're paying like 5K a month for a server or something. I don't know. But actually it's still, I don't even know if it can run it. Okay, so this hand was a bet. Let's continue. And I think clear bets. This is not one I would want to slow play. Oh, wow. So my bet was right, but it does slow play this hand half the time. So let's look at what nut flushes it decides to slow play. So it slow plays very few. I'm a little surprised about the set because, well, okay, I would think king would keep betting. Almost always, okay. And queen too, because, oh wow, queen not as much. Because like when your opponent check calls with, jack 10, 8-7 with 8-7 of hearts, and then the river is a jack or a 4 or a queen or something, they're going to donk bluff into you, I would think. So that's why betting like big sets and big 2-pair plus flushes work really well. Okay, so with 3 hearts, we're going to check more often. That makes sense to me. It's just really tough to get called down. I guess it's worth noting that this is a spot where you can run into the second nuts. And actually, it's not totally a negligible amount of the time. Oh, not the image. I want to go to learn. I don't want to lose my spot. Whatever. I want to learn because I want to see how often the out of position player has a straight flush, because it might be more than we might think. %1 of the time. So not really enough for us to worry about too much. Okay. Can we get back there? No, we cannot. Or at least not the way I did it. I know going from learn to practice, I just had to press the button. I screwed that up. Post flop, flop to river. All right, let's keep at it. I'm gonna skip comments for a little bit because I want to give you guys more study. I want to get through these hands for a little bit. So I mean, feel free to, and I'll look back up at a pausing point, at a stopping point. But I want to just play some hands and talk about it with you. So we got check called. I would assume we're still betting this set. It would not absolutely shock me if we were not. This is a really weak set. Getting check raised is actually pretty uncomfortable with 4-4. I think we just go with it. But I think this is a bet, but it would not surprise me if we need like a club or a gut shot or something. No, pure bet. Are we ever checking 4-4? Never. Are we ever checking deuce-deuce? Never. So I'm just wrong. We're never checking any sets. Okay, now we're button versus small blind. Check to us. This one's kind of interesting. We can call a check raise, and one heuristic I like as it's not always true, but like a decent rule is if you can call a check raise, you should usually be betting if it's a spot where you have like a reasonable betting range. It's not always true though, and this is when I think keeping a pot small is kind of nice, because on like the queen, we don't want to be playing a big pot on the queen. And on like a 4, like we want to just check back and call turn. So I like checking this. Nice, pure check. Which ace 9-8. So ace with the ace of hearts we would bet. Again, like big pots are for hands that want to play big pots, including being able to bluff on them. So with ace of hearts we bet. With flush draws we bet. And otherwise we don't. Let's continue with the check. So now facing a pot, we have a very easy call. 3/4 pot. I don't think we would raise this hand ever. Yeah. I mean, we raise 7% of the time. I'm a little bit curious about our raising range. Just so this is not, I know that I'm already off course, but I'm just curious. So we have a set 4.4% of the time. So it was the top sets that we checked back, and the other sets we raise sometimes, presumably with extra equity. Yeah. So with no draw, we don't raise middle set as much. With a flush draw or open ender, we always do. Okay. And we have those a little more than I thought we did. Okay, let's continue. Facing a small bet. I think these are actually pretty terrible blockers. So a lot of people look at this spot and would think, oh, well, like I'm facing a small bet. Aces is like a pretty good hand. I have a lot of misdraws. I have a lot of like Jack X or 10X that are worse. So, and I need to call, what is this? You need to call 75% of your range or something against third pot. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So this feels like the top 75% of my range, but I think it's not the top 75% of your range when it comes to blocker qualities. I don't think our opponent's going to be betting queens and kings here for small sizing. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. If they are betting kings and queens, this becomes a call because you beat value. But otherwise, it becomes about blocker qualities. And we don't block any 2-pair. We block bluffs because all 4 of these cards are part of straight draws. And we have a heart that's part of a flush draw. So I think this is a fold. I might be wrong, but that's the logic I would use to get through it. Whereas a hand like imagine we have
let's say ace jack 5-5. Obviously that blocks straights, but I'm not even too concerned about straights because he's small betting and he's not gonna have a ton of 3-5. But it doesn't block king, queen, 9-8-7. So I would call, jack with, non-blockers over this. So it looks like this hand mixes. I'm curious if my ace jack 5-5 calls. It might raise too. Okay, it always raises, but it never folds. So here with hearts it calls. Ace jack 5-7. Also never folding. Ace jack 5-8. And never folding. 3-8. So basically you can see that like having the jack that doesn't block the straight draws is much more valuable than this. I'm not going to go in and see if they value bet kings because it'll take me out of this. But let's go to a new hand. Oh, not new handed. Okay, but here we have 3 straight blockers, no flush blocker. We have a jack. This seems close to me. I would call. I think the jack is just really powerful because our opponent's repping jacks up. Like that's a huge part of our opponent's value range. Yeah. So do we ever fold a jack? Let's just put it that way. Never. You never fold a jack here. It doesn't matter about the straight blockers just because when your opponent bets big on the turn, they're not supposed to bet big with like a lot of 4 deuce and 10 deuce and stuff, but jack 10, jack 4, some jack deuce. And then to bet river, like so much of their value range contains a jack. So it's just too powerful a blocker. Let's go to reload. Gonna check this one back. I wouldn't be shocked to see a bet with the ace of hearts again. And big pots are for hands that can put in bets in big pots. Let's continue. Easy check, I think. Let's continue. So our opponent can pot 8-7. So like all straights can pot. Sets can do this and 2-pair can do this, which means, the 10 and the 4 are good blockers. So I think it's probably a call. Yeah. Okay. New spot. Okay, we are button versus big blind. This is another one where like it's not a good hand. In heads up, I would usually check this, but I think in 6 max the range advantage is more in your favor, and so I'm gonna try to bet. Yeah, mostly bet. We got the backdoor stuff. So let's continue. We get called. Our bluff gets called. Oh no, our bluff gets raised. We get to fold. Nice. Let's see what we would. Okay, so here's a hand facing a check raise that we would not fold. The question is, do we pot this or call? I think with king high hearts, I would raise, but here I'm afraid of king high hearts, that like maybe even king 10 with king high hearts or things like that. So I would just call. Nope, it raises. Okay. Any queen high hearts raises. Okay. I was wrong. I think in practice, you can get away with just calling this because I think people check raise too tight of a range on this board. And they check raise a range that has a lot of just like ace of hearts, junk. And so like having the flushes in your calling range is pretty good. See a new hand. This one's a fold. We're still facing that check raise, by the way. This one's a fold. Facing check raise is actually not that difficult. You just call hands that have enough equity like this one. Fold this. Interesting. Sometimes with hearts, it rips it in. I mean, very rarely, but that's trying to fold out like dry king 10 or 3-3 or something. Let's do a new hand. Oh, not in this spot. I mean, a whole new hand. So reload. DGen Twins is coming from NL. I definitely value aces way too much post flop. Yeah, for sure. This is not, this is not a hand that wants to build a big pot. You can see it's sneaking in a bet. Solver does a lot of just like mixing stuff in occasionally. I would not ever bet this. Just don't need to. This seems like a good bet. It's a good bluffing hand on a lot of runouts. Man, good blocker qualities like the 10 and the ace of hearts mean you get raised much less frequently. So I like that. Let's try a new hand on the same board. All right, we're all still good. Similar. I think this is a little stronger. I think still a bet. Yeah. New hand, same board. This one, I'm not sure. I'm gonna go with check, but I could see it. I could see it either way. Okay. Well, I was right that you could see it either way. It's a mix. And with a bigger heart, it's going to bet. With the weaker heart, it's mostly going to check. This feels like a check to me because, and this is another concept that I think is valuable. This isn't the perfect example of it, but it's a decent example of it. And I think it's a really important concept that's not talked about enough. And maybe this is like even worth a video, training video on the topic, but something I call elasticity. So I guess I would call it like equity elasticity. So this is a hand that, how do I put this? Anyway, okay, this is a hand that like has pretty good equity against a full range. But when you bet and get called, your equity is so-so. And when you bet, the hands that they fold had so little equity against your hand because, you know, they're folding out like, well, definitely not a king. They're never folding a king. They'll call with some like tens with redraws. They'll call with some flush draws that are better than yours. They'll call with a few that are worse than yours, but usually with a pair or something else. But a lot of their folds are just like, you know, 9987 and stuff that you have basically dead, and maybe 9987 with one heart. So then when you turn a heart, they start bluffing and so on and so forth. So this is a hand that I think, I mean, I might be wrong. Maybe this hand bets. I think it doesn't because it causes so many low equity hands to fold and decent equity hands to call. So now a hand with a different level of elasticity is a hand like ace, jack, 3-4 with nut hearts. Okay. So ace, jack, 3-4 with nut hearts is going to make some better hands fold. So like the folding range actually has decent equity against ace, jack, 3-4 with nut hearts. But even when you get called or raised, ace, jack, 3-4 with nut hearts retains its equity. And so I call that more elasticity, meaning that like regardless of what part of the range, our opponent's range we face, our equity is still like, it still like holds. Whereas this hand, ace, jack, jack, 4 is low elasticity. So I'm going to say check, which is a pure check. And then let's use the hand example that I talked about. So ace, jack, 3-4, nut hearts is always betting down here 100% of the time. And that's because of the reason I mentioned. Whereas I think ace, jack, jack, 4, nut hearts is probably betting too. But actually you can see here, not always. So even though ace, jack, jack, 4 with nut hearts is a stronger hand, it's not betting as often because it has less elasticity than ace, jack, 3-4. Again, specifically when comparing those two hands, the difference is jack, jack is making a lot of weaker hands fold, whereas ace 3 as the made hand for ace, jack, 3-4 is actually making a lot of better hands fold and hands with good equity. So like even the hands that are folding that have no pair have 4 overcards to the 3. So that's a concept that I think is critical in kind of getting an idea of which hands you want to bet, which hands you want to check. So we check this. Let's continue. Obviously call, we're not folding a flush here again. So if you want to think about, and I actually skipped a lot of important points in the like percentage of range thing. Maybe fortunately for me, because then you have some reason to look at the courses that talk about it more in depth. But if we want to look at it percentage wise, like we're probably going to have a flush, like let's just say a quarter of the time here. And so against this bet sizing, we have to defend something like 55% of our hands. So that means we have to call the 25% flushes and then 30% more other hands. So let's say we call here. How often do we have a flush? I guess 25. It's only 20. I guess a lot of the flushes that raise pre-flop bet the flop because they have ace of hearts or king of hearts. So that's why I was wrong there. And then overall, we call half the time. So we're actually raising. So we call a little bit less than I thought. But that means we have to call 30% of hands that are not flushes. So, but then by the time we get to the river, oh no, okay, I clicked away. Ignore the board for a minute. When we call with 50% of hands and 20% are flushes, roughly. Now, when we face pot size bet on the river, we have to call with half our hands again, but we have 40% flushes. So that means we can call all of our flushes and then just a few more hands. And actually, probably we call all of our flushes, we raise a few ace of hearts blocker hands, which maybe we have 4% of or something. And then we just have to call like 6% non-flushes, or maybe it's closer to like 8% because we've raised some flushes on the turn. Okay, under the gun versus big blind. We're going to have a high check frequency on 643, and this hand certainly seems like a check to me. Interesting that it sneaks in a little bit. I guess just like it probably wants to bet a smattering of all different kinds of hands. I just said a lot, so I think I'll pause for a second and catch up. Oh, interesting. Matthias says you can always click on the question marks to see a sample hand of the villain. People like that when they like play a hand to showdown and make the river call, and they just want to see it. It's a little more fun. Bitcoin says, I think for this is PLO, I'd love to see more 6max content, perhaps the guest coach again, like Grieco. Grieco is great. Perhaps also something on exploitative adjustments to opponents, which wildly deviate from GTO, passive calling stations, maniacs, etc. Perhaps even some meta content like mindset, how to study, etc. But I guess this might go too far beyond the course topic. Yeah. I think the mindset stuff is, I think the mindset stuff is beyond the course content, and how to study is beyond it, but how to study in game plan versus specific opponent in PLO is probably not beyond it, and so that would be a good idea. My thing about I think getting a guest to do more 6max content with me would be the easiest way to do it. I'm curious how you would like that essentially, because I think some people they sign up for me, they buy the course because they want to learn from me. And then I'm just referring kind of to somebody else for all of the 6max content, and it feels a little bit like, But I guess if Grieco is fantastic, and you obviously liked the stuff that he did, so maybe that is actually, I'm going to write that down, because I think that would be a great way to add to the course, and I would like to add to it. I'm trying to think where I want to note this. All right, that is going into my reminders. Thank you for the suggestion. Cameron says, I'm curious, Phil, what do you recommend to a 50-cent $1 online PLO grinder for how to take their game to the next level? Already use solver and watch videos. You're doing two of the best things. I would say at those stakes, I would worry a lot less about solvers and more about videos. But if you can I think the best thing for you would be to find a coach or a group coaching or just peers to study with. If you don't already have those, I think that's huge. Matthias says, and you can understand some of your own plays better when seeing villain's hand, like players on a lower level than you, So yeah, like by seeing their hands and the way that they played it, you can understand better. And really liked the ace jack jack checker bet discussion. Says, I know you get self-conscious about your 6max knowledge, Phil, but your 6max knowledge is God mode us. I appreciate that. Thank you. Nick H says, wow, neat. As you say that, would you consider bringing on one of those solver whisperers? Co-commentate it was Grieco one of them, because that would make a lot of sense. Oh, okay. Are you behind in this stream? Maybe. Are you talking about my the people I studied with? And thank you. So you're saying, yeah, if it's my course, you do want to learn from me. I think that doing it, I do want more 6max content in there. I don't know the best way to do it. Maybe, well, no, because I think I was going to say maybe more games start running on WSOP.com, and I can actually play more and study a lot and then use that to make videos. But you can't use a tracker, I think, on WSOP.com, so I wouldn't have the hands to study and review. I'd have videos, so maybe that would be. Hopefully the games run. Cone Company, what stakes is this geared towards, if not 50 cent $1? I think like, I mean, so 50 cent $1, it's so tough. I think this is useful to learn for sure at those stakes online. But I would do more learning about exploitative play personally. Matthias might disagree with me, and actually Matthias more like, I mean, Matthias plays higher stakes than that, but he's worked with a lot of people who use vision and might be more in touch with how much it's helped people in those at those stakes. I might just honestly, I might be wrong. It's a good point. I'm not sure. It's a good question. I just want to ask that. Originally, I'm saying a bit ago, someone asked you to do more 6-Mac content. You bring a guest on. Oh, okay, cool. I think I understand. Claudio says 200 big content heads up and 6-Max. So Vision has 200 big blinds for both. Actually, do we have it for heads up? I know we do for 6-Max. No, we don't. We don't for heads up. Well, wait, we do pre-flop for heads up, right? We do pre-flop for heads up, but not post-flop, I believe. All right, let's go back to. I'd be kind of curious to do some 5-card heads up because I don't even know how to do it. Like I don't even know how to play 5-card. I guess you guys probably want 6-Max content. So let's do some 5-card 6-Max PLO for fun. And let's practice post-flop. And I have no idea what's going to happen. You guys are going to get to see me guess quite a bit. Jay Purpo says, even though I bought your course, I like that you brought an active 6-Max player in. But I think those videos should have both of you discussing, not just Greco or whoever solo. Yeah, we did, I think. I don't remember how many. We did some with both of us and some with just him. But yeah, I think that's a good call. Oh, Claudio, 200 BB, 6-Max is only pre-flop also. Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. I appreciate that. Bitcoin. Okay, wait, did I go back to all right. We are playing 5-card. So we have raised the button versus big blind. Moonlight Master says, dare I suggest you should do this kind of stream once a month or every other month or so? I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Obviously, like I mean, it's not all about the clicks. There are far fewer viewers than when I'm actually playing because this is a lot more dense and you know, nerdy. But I'm hoping people are finding it helpful, and I will consider it. It is like more predictable in that when there are not games running, I can just show up and do this whenever I want. I'm not reliant on games being available. Okay, anyway, my guess is this would be a good betting hand. It blocks a lot of stuff, and I would imagine that blockers go up even more in value in 5-card because you actually like have queen a lot more often. That is correct, although it mixes our opponent. This hand, let's continue. Well, I don't know if he called with that hand or not, but now on this turn, I think betting is pretty good. Obviously, we're bluffing at this point. Although, wait. God. So in if this were 4-card, I would check. We just have too much showdown value. In 5-card, I'm wondering if it's just too good of a bluffing candidate with a queen and actually having Jack, which I think could probably value bet the river if called. No. Well, I mean, it bets 43% of the time. And actually this overall category, 40% of the time. So yeah, I mean, it was fine. Okay, we check. Oh yeah, so we have to do, for 5-card, we don't have, do we not have any rivers for 5-card yet, or we don't have many? I think we don't have any. So you spend all the time adding more 5-card flops and turns and then more 4-card rivers. Let's do some post-flop learning with 5-card because I'm just very curious about all of it. Single raise pot, single suited. Let's do button versus big blind. 10-9-5, single suited flop. Nick H said, I personally learned a ton from Greco, so I +1 that. Okay, cool. Info, see, yeah, we'll keep a recording of the stream up, at least for a while. Let's hit the like button, guys. Phil is too nice to ask for it. I appreciate that. See, Jen says the fewer people that watch this versus the live stream play, the better for us watching, at least. LOL. Okay, so out of position is going to lead here. I'm not going to look into that right now. So 53% betting in position is a little bit higher than I would have expected, I think, in 4-card. I'm not going to go find a 4-card one here, but I would have expected that the number would be more like 45, which I know is not that much of a difference, but it's something. Could be wrong, of course. But I would imagine that just position is more powerful in 5-card because... So position is more powerful in PLO than no limit hold'em because every board change matters more in PLO than in hold'em because it's more likely that like a very strong hand on the flop has become a weak hand on the turn. Whereas in hold'em, if you check raise the flop with a set, like, yeah, if a flush comes in on the turn, it's a little bit scary, but like you still have a good hand. If like, I don't know, if a straight comes in, you still have like a hand that can bet, whereas in PLO, it's not always the case. So I'd imagine 5-card just takes that one step further. And so position becomes more valuable. So let's look at hand classes. I've never tested hand classes in 5-card, so hopefully there's no issue. Moonlight says, I think having a regular meetup once a month for an hour or two with you may not catch as many casual YouTube viewers, but potentially motivate Rio elite members. Uh-oh, I broke it. Maybe we don't, Matthias, if you're still here, maybe we don't have hand classes for 5-card. I'm not sure. I think we do. Eric says, hey, Phil, late to the stream. How much longer are we going for? So I'm not going to, I don't know if I'm going to go for too much longer, but then I'm going to, when we stop this study stream, I'm going to sign off momentarily or like sign off for like 5 minutes for me. Then I'm going to set a delay and I'm going to restart. And then I'm going to stream me playing on WSOP.com. So we're going to be streaming all night, probably for at least another 10 hours. It's going to be a 12-hour stream, maybe longer if I do well in the tournament. Maybe we'll have a 15-hour stream on our hands. And I'll be exhausted like I kind of already am from the last few days of streaming. But the study part, I don't think we'll go on too much. I said like 2 to 3 hours, and it's been a little over 2. But I feel like, I guess I'm not sure where to take it. You know what? Let's go back to streak while we're here. And let's do a little heads up streak competition. So for those who do not know, because you missed earlier, Vision is free for you today. So just anybody with a free run at once account, you don't even have to have Essential or Elite or anything, has access to this. And if you don't already have a run at once account, you just go to runatonce.com, get a basic account, which is free. And then you'll have access to this today. So like, oh, okay, Matthias says hand classes should take like 20 seconds to load max. Otherwise restarting the browser might be best. So we do have hand classes for 5-card, but I've moved on because I don't know, had a new idea. Thank you. And Flops River should work for 5-card too. I guess everything, I need to reload browser because it's just a lot heavier for 5-card. Zepha, good to see you, by the way. Says, man, I remember in 2015-ish, never folding your big blind in PLO was all the rage. The positional disrespect was real. Yeah. I never subscribed to that, I think. Maybe I did for a few minutes. And actually, I've done it heads up against some opponents who I maybe don't respect enough in PLO. But I didn't believe in it. Random edge. Okay, Moonlight Master with the link. Anyway, so we're gonna do some heads up 4-card where I do know what I'm doing, and we're gonna do streak. I'm gonna see if anybody can beat me. So let's do something hard. Let's go to 3-bet pots. Flop play as the big blind. Okay, so this is going to show, oh, I have to work fast. This actually is close. I'm going to go fold. I'm fish. Okay, I'm rusty. All All right. Here we're facing a check. Easy call with queens. Yeah, I forgot I don't have long to explain. So I bet small, get raised. I think in theory this is probably call. Yeah. I think it doesn't work out too well in practice. So anyway, you go to 4 card, heads up in one of these 4 options, head over to streak, be on 100 big blind, and then go to the flop play 3-bet pot and click big blind. And we're going to see if anybody can beat whatever number I get here. So for reference, 4 card, heads up, 3-bet pot, big blind. The record is 33 in a row. I could get second place if I clear 12 in a row. So I'm going to try to get second place. I don't think I can get first. We are at 2. We bet and get raised. Yikes. I think it's a, oh man. Fold. Cool. And it was close, as you can see. I mean, these are basically, well, almost the same hand, but slightly different. Yeah, so 5K stacks on vision. The settings cog up here, the default is going to be in small blinds because that's how Monker Solver has it. But you can either convert it to big blinds, which I think most people would probably like convert to big blinds always. I like seeing the cash stakes personally. So I'm going to stick with this. And how do you choose heads up? That's up here on the top left. There's 4-card heads up, et cetera, et cetera. This is going to be a check fold. I just didn't want to time out. So up here on the top left under the V for vision, here are your 4 options. So 4-card heads up, 4-card 6-max, 5-card 6-max, 5-card heads up. You should have access to all of it for today. All right, we're at 4 in a row. We're trying to clear 12. This is going to be a clear call. I don't think we're going to raise. Look at that. It sneaks in a little bit of a raise. Facing a lot of raises. Bet and get raised. I think this is fold. Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. So vision rips this in. We block top set. This is nuts to me. So, I mean, with... Interesting. So with the ace of hearts and nothing else, we fold. Ace of hearts. So ace of hearts is bad to have because the button's bluff raises are going to be ace of hearts very often. But this is actually like bonkers to me. I did not think we'd be raising here. It makes sense. Like, low SPR play can be very unintuitive. Because you just have to go with it a lot. And sometimes like this hand is, you're just wrecked. So like sometimes this hand is dead against a hand like this. So against this hand, which is usually what you're going to be up against, not usually, often going to be up against, I have 1 out plus 3 outs. So I have 4 outs. Oh no, plus 3 more. So I have 7 outs, but then he's going to have a big redraw. So probably if we give it the equivalent of like 4 outs, that's 18% equity or something against this. That's actually not even, but if you get enough folds, it's worth it. I think in practice, this is probably a fold. I don't think people bluff raise enough, but. Whoops. Check. I was reading Matthias. She said, if you're wondering, generate villain hands so you can see solver's raising range. Think whether you will face it in your game as well. You can click more often to generate more hands. Okay, cool. So I'll do that as an example of what you said. So next time here, I'm going to call. And then we could see, here's some things. So like, yeah, would your opponents find this bluff raise? Maybe not. Would they find this bluff raise? I've never seen anybody raise this hand in my life. They always call this hand. I'm shocked to see that as a raise. Would they find this value raise? Yeah, sometimes. Would they find this? Yeah. Would they find this? Yeah. That was value. Would they find this? No. I haven't seen that. They could. They might. 7-7, sure. 7-7, sure. Yeah, maybe. I've seen that. I don't think I've seen king 7 4 4. 7 7, sure, that's value. Yeah, the ace 8 3 3. I've seen that. I've never seen this. So like the open enders plus pair, I've never seen anybody raise in my life on an ace high board. The wraps I have ace king 5 4. This is value. I've never seen this raise. That's interesting. Yeah, the open enders again. I've never seen. I don't think I've seen raises this week. I haven't seen raises this week. Wrap, sure, but I think it's usually calls. This I've never seen. So yeah, I think people won't bluff quite enough here. All right, we're at a streak of 2. Thank you for that, Matthias. That's helpful. Just fold. Call. I don't think we want to raise this hand. Yeah, it's obviously not a fold. I think I might just rip this in. Yeah, cool. We're at 5 correct. We need to clear 12. Fold. Ken just got second place for 16. Awesome. So now I have to beat you to beat 16. I can see this going either way. I'm going to bet. Lucky. With the ace of spades, it bets. Without, it would have been a check, but very close. We're at 7. Raise, fold. So I actually see bet 100% of my range. This would be a pretty good checking hand, though, if we do have checks. No. So solver, like vision c bets 78% of my range. I just see bet 100% of my range here. It's just easier. And I don't split my ranges. I thought that this would be a good checking hand if we did have checks. But we start over. Okay, this one feels like a bet. Mix. Half-half. There is such a thing as run bad, even in a solver. I think that's a fold. That's a call. Close. Fold. Eric says, and Nick, you're very welcome. Call? No, it's a fold. Yeah, I didn't feel great about it. So Nick says, thanks for going over that. How many of those bluff raises might you not be making yourself? Probably like I make the same ones that my opponents do in that spot. So I would be missing the open enders as well, for sure. Eric Wang says, check. He doesn't say check. He says, what do you think are the biggest struggles from transitioning from 6-max to heads up are? I always felt my heads up game lagging. I also feel like there's more edges heads up because game flow is much more important. Yeah, win rates are much higher heads up. I mean, it's just like the same game, but in 6-max, you can kind of hide behind being a nit. And in heads up, you cannot hide behind it. Looks like this one was a mix. In 6-max, you could just hide behind playing tight pre-flop ranges and people will make enough mistakes that you can win. In heads up, that doesn't work. And so kind of just like more of your game is exposed. So you just have to be better, honestly. In certain ways. I think it's just a call, slow play. There are some ways in which, like there are skills that are required in pot. Yeah. There are skills that are required in 6-max that are not required in heads up, specifically like well, first of all, pre-flop's a lot more complicated, but second of all, like understanding the board dynamics, you know, the difference between under the gun versus hijack and under the gun versus button. So like there's actually more nuance in that respect, and there's more studying required to be good at 6-max. And maybe that's why I don't study that much, because heads up doesn't require as much study. But yeah, it's mostly just more about adjusting to opponents, more about, this is close, I'm going to bet. Damn it. More about, this could be a check raise. I'm going to bet, though. I think check raise is going to be rare, if ever. I'm going to bet. I just bet my full range here. Looks like Vision bets 85%, which is, you know, anytime I look at like an 85% small bet, I just bet my full range. And so like this hand, yeah, like I was about to think like this hand kind of likes checking, but you just mostly bet everything. So you're always, if it's a spot where you're betting most of your range, you're kind of safe guessing. Eric, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought when I was answering that last part. But hopefully you got a sufficient answer, satisfactory answer. I think this is a call with eights. Like basically a break-even call. We're up to 5. This is a call. Is it a raise? I think it's just a call. Fold. I wouldn't be shocked if this just rips it in. Let's see. Yeah, it just rips it in. These are the plays that like people struggle to find, but it's partially, I think, again, because of the raises. So like, yeah, nobody raises this, or almost nobody. This one, I think people don't usually raise this. People just like, some people never raise this board. I usually have 0% raising range on this board, actually. This hand I could see raising from some people. This hand I could see raising. This I could see raising. This, maybe. This, maybe. Probably not. This, I've never seen. It's a pretty reasonable raising hand, though. Like, I could probably find it. This one, I don't know. This one, So, yeah, like, I don't know. A lot of people play no raises on that board, so that's why it's hard to evaluate. This seems way too strong, so I just call. Without hearts, it still just calls. If we somehow had king, queen, 5, it would do some raising. This one, again, like this is a board that I see bet with my full range. Vision does 93%. So basically, heads up, on a 2 Broadway board with no straights, I bet my full range for somewhere between half pot and 75% pot. Anywhere, like I think like anywhere in there is fine. I usually do half pot because that's what Vision does. Eric saying ace, king, queen, 5 raising seems bad in practice because unless we're, oh yeah, same hand as before, I guess we're going to pot it in again. Yeah, a lot of people don't. Well, it's interesting because a lot of people don't find the value raises and the bluff raises because they just don't raise. A lot of people just don't have a raising range. And so it's very hard to evaluate this raising range when I just think like ace 6, I don't see that. Yeah, I just don't see people raise anything. And so it's hard for me to gauge like if my average opponent is too bluff heavy or too value heavy because they just have no raises. I see bet range for like 15% pot here. Vision only bets 40% for half pot. All right, was that third pot? It was third pot. This hand checks, which makes a lot of sense, actually. I just thought we might bet a bunch, which we do not. Just a call here. Super says that feature of going over villain's hands is unreal. Yeah, it's really, I mean, like, I was saying it at the top of the stream, but just like the things that Matthias thinks of to put in Vision. Also, I'm sure with the feedback of the Discord community sometimes, and some help from Run It Once, but it's mostly his genius. Just so many like little features that add so much value, which is why we partnered with him, among other reasons. So I check my, do I check my full range? I check close to my full range here. This one I just rip in. It's like you do a lot of just, so like you can see here, 41% of the time we fold. If we continue, it's usually with a jam because it's just so hard to play out of position. Marco, would I do a one-on-one challenge against Jay Nandez? Yeah, I would. We almost did back at the beginning. So I'm not going to have any, or almost no raises. I'm definitely going to call this. This seems standard. Lyman says, appreciate you showing this, Phil. Can you explain why raise is the correct category play and sometimes Vision actually likes a mixed strategy and only raises 26%? Sometimes the category is like, there's a main category and then there's a subcategory. So I'll need to see an example to see, to kind of be reminded of which it is. I would check this hand. Cool. I think I got to 11. I'm going to pot this in. Nope. Interesting. What about Jack 10 with no queen? So only with hearts? No. Mostly with hearts, though. I guess we're up against Jack 10 with hearts too often. Oh, this could go either way. I'm going to go check. Nope. Am I going to clear 12? I'm not going to beat Ken, who got 16. Could raise, but I mostly call. It's nuts to me that we fold this. I guess we're up against a tight betting range. Like, button shouldn't bet too often, but I am surprised by that. This is a fold. We're going to rip in. This I'm going to bet. The 9 blocker I think is useful. And also Jack 9-6, a high frequency bet. You can see here 67. I've seen you switch up some sizing for visions. How do you get those sizings? So sometimes I just simplify. So in a spot, for example, where vision bets like 80% of the time for half pot, sometimes I'll just go 100% for third pot, because my logic is like I'm putting in kind of the same volume of betting. And if I bet 100% of the time for half pot, I'm maybe like putting in a little too much money with some very weak hands. So sometimes I just decide to change it. Other times I've looked things up in Monk or Solver and seen if it was a viable strategy. This feels like a check fold. Oh, you can go mixed. I didn't even know that. This could be a check raise, but I mostly bet. Okay, always bet. Okay, so I can go mixed if you think a hand can go either way. I didn't realize that. Papito GTO. I don't think that's true. He says Jane Endez is not a winner. He admits it. I'm pretty sure he's a winning player. I bet my full range. I mean, he's obviously a winning player. It's just a matter of if he's not a winning player somewhere, then he's a winning player at lower stakes. But I think he's probably a winning player most places he plays. I guess we fold. All right, I'm going to try to find a mixed opportunity. This one's not mixed. Marco asks if Joe Ingram's any good at PLO. I mean, I'm sure he's good. I haven't really played with him. But I mean, he's obviously good. It just depends on your definition of good and what games you're playing in. Check call. Okay, we cleared 12. We're at 14. I'm gonna jam. Or I mean, it's not jam. It's raise smaller. Check fold. Okay, we got to 16. That was what Ken got to. Double gut shot, I think, is a call. Ugh. Okay, good. Lyman's everybody's. Welvin, what is this? Phil just joined a game to see if you make correct decisions. This is a study tool called Vision. It's at runatoonce.com/vision, and it's free today for everybody with a basic Run It Once account, which is free. If you don't already have one, you just sign up. And there's not like a put a credit card down. There's nothing. It's free today for everybody. And it has a lot of features. So right now we're doing a feature called Streak, where we see how many we can get correct in a row, and there's a leaderboard. We're at 17, which puts us in second place on the leaderboard. I think first was like 30 something. 33 in a row. Oh no. Last call, are you watching right now? You got to 22. All right, so we're in third. Silver is actually not, this silver doesn't mean trophy. There's a category for I think the percentage that you get right. But yeah, it also has like all kinds of ways that you can study. This is more of like a fun way, a fun, less dense way of studying. But you can nerd out, and if you watch this replay back, you'll see me nerding out quite a bit. I'm gonna bet this one. Darn, there goes my streak. What did I get to? 19. I'll take a couple questions. Pito, you posted graphs and videos. He doesn't win long term without ragebacks. Oh, well, probably on if he's posting graphs from GG, their rake is super high, and then you kind of need some rake back to win. But I don't really know. Supero says, would love a new Galfond challenge based around Vision Streak for a 100K side bet. I don't want to do that. I don't think I would be the best. I think that like the way that I study, which I've talked about so far during the stream, is like I want to get the heuristics and I don't want to dig into the absolute nitty gritty because I'd rather spend that time elsewhere. Obviously, like getting into the nitty gritty, if you have 5 times as much time to study with Vision, then yeah, it's going to make you better. But I think there's a point of diminishing returns, and I try to like get to the point of where like I'm using all my study hours really in a valuable way, and then yeah, I don't learn the last 10-20%, but I just use kind of my logic to get there. Seems like a call. Eric Wang, where do you think the best heads-up PLO resources are? More importantly, how would you approach heads-up PLO studying besides drilling Vision? I mean, if you're talking heads-up PLO specifically, then I think that Vision, I think the best resources truly are run-at-once. I think they're Vision, a little bit of Elite, but also, I mean, This is PLO is my course. It's not cheap. It's $2,500, but it's literally everything. It's like 73 hours of me teaching PLO, mostly heads-up PLO, but concepts that apply all over. So that, I mean, you could debate whether it's worth the cost or not, but I can't imagine there's a better heads-up PLO resource, unless you want to get like a one-on-one coach, maybe. Well, then you're very welcome. Thanks for being here. Super, yeah, the 80-20 rule. I'm big on the 80-20 rule. I think this is just a call. If it were rainbow, I think I would just raise. This is a fold. Eric says, first impressions of Vision, it does very strange things and gets you thinking about spots in ways you wouldn't normally. Yeah. And your challenge, is this a fold? Yeah. Your challenge is to, when it does something that surprises you, which if you watch back this stream, there were a couple times that happened, dig in and try to figure out why. Because that's where the gold is figuring out a concept that you were missing, that you now understand. So I check my full range on this board. This would be a pretty good betting hand if we have bets. But yeah, Vision checks 95%. I check 100%, just because it's I simplify where I can. This seems like a call. We're at 9. Fold. Call. Fold. Fold. All right, we're doing okay. Up to 13. I'm going to call this. It seems like we want to, like another concept that I forget where, so I think there was a book that I never read, but a friend read that talked about this concept, but like pushing hands and pulling hands. And it's basically like, that actually has something to do with elasticity too, which I talked about earlier. But like which hands want to like do the pulling, like the check calling, and which want to do the pushing. And pushing hands want to have like well, obviously they're bluffs, but when you're looking at value, like they have equity against the hands that call you down. So like if you were to raise with this, like this is a pretty good hand, but when I raise, and this is kind of elasticity, by the time that he puts in a 3-bet or calls, well, my 10's probably not good, and now I'm the one drawing, and or my draw is not good. But when I check call and I keep in his like pure bluffs or his very weak bluffs, I'm like absolutely crushing his bluffs and equity. So that makes a good pulling hand. I would bet this. Is it a mix? Let's try mixed for the first time. Darn, should have stuck with my gut. Yeah, that was a fish. That was a fish mixed pick. I wanted to pick mix somewhere. I guess I could have done it there. Call. All right, this is our last streak. Spades, and I don't know. I'm actually gonna fold. Could fold, fill. Nut spades, we could sometimes call. Moonlight Master, thanks for linking the course. I would fold this. I don't know if it's fold though. Call. All right, we lose. So what I'm going to do is wrap up this stream. It is 2:42 Pacific right now. We are live, so you're seeing this in real time. I am going to stop, and I'm going to. There are two things that might happen. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to resume the stream on the hour. So for me, that's going to be 5 minutes earlier because I'm going to implement a delay. But for you, it'll be on the hour. So in 18 minutes, I will be back with another stream. On that stream, I'm going to play PLO cash games on WSOP.com and a $3,200 WSOP bracelet event. I might actually start with just cash games while the bracelet event is like in the very early stages. Maybe not. We'll see. If for some reason there's no action at all, then we'll do a little more studying on a 5-minute delay until there is action. But yeah. Without further ado, thank you for hanging out for the study stream. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you have not checked out Vision, it's free right now for you. Go to runonce.com, check it out. And I should have mentioned again that today and tomorrow, if you enter the code StudyStream, that's one word, StudyStream, at checkout for Vision for 3 months or for 1 month plans, you get double what you sign up for. So sign up for 1 quarter, which is 3 months, and you get 6 quarters. Sign up for 1 month, you get 1 month free. And that's just today and tomorrow for Vision. So if you enjoyed this study and you are serious about learning PLO, I would highly recommend that. Thanks for being here. We've got a lot of streaming ahead, so come back. I know when we drop the stream off, obviously a lot of people leave. But if you want to see more PLO, cash game action, and other stuff, come on back on the hour. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you all. Take care. I'll see you soon.